Find us on Facebook, email us at head2headpinball@gmail.com, or go to our website at head2headpinball.com. Welcome everybody to the Head2Head Pinball podcast. This is episode 55 and my name's Martin, and with me always
it's Ryan C. And we've got a very special guest on today, Marty. This man can be described somewhat as pinball's journeyman. He has worked for companies such as Bally, Midway, then Williams, Stern. He has his own company, Whizbang, responsible for such classics as Whitewater, Demolition Man, and 2 Elvira games. Now he's designing pinballs for Deeproot, the tallest designer in the pinball land. Ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Nordman. How you going, Dennis?
Thank you, guys. Nice to be here.
So Dennis, your introduction and the way you got into pinball was a lot different than everyone else, because you actually started as a cabinet designer and not designing pinballs, designing just the cabinets of them, and you somehow worked your way into designing pinballs from there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I went to Ohio State, majored in product design, and for one of my senior projects, I designed a really futuristic-looking pinball cabinet. Then I had to have back surgery before I could finish all my courses. At that time, back surgery was a lot more invasive than it is now, so I couldn't even ride in a car for 6 weeks after my surgery. After that point, since I couldn't take my courses right away, I built a full-size version of that pinball cabinet. I took it to Schaefer Distributing in Columbus, Ohio, and they set me up with Chuck Farmer at Valley Pinball, and I hauled it out there in my van, and they decided to hire me to design cabinets.
So I've heard that story before, and I'm always confused because, obviously you've designed the cabinet, so it's already there. So why, instead of buying the design off you, did they have other cabinets in mind they needed designed for different projects with arcades and things like that, or was it just because the design was so good?
Well, of course I'm going to say because the design. That's a good question. I never even thought of that before. Why didn't they just buy the design from me? I don't know. I was happy they hired me.
Yeah.
It then became what was known as rapid fire, which was, obviously the ball shooting sort of take on pinball. I guess some people say it's pinball, some people say it's not. But also then became the design for a couple of other machines, including some of the special editions for Centaur and 8-Ball Deluxe. Is that right?
That's right. The cabinet that I designed was actually very different than those two. The one I designed was to be made of fiberglass, but nobody wanted to deal with that fiberglass. So it was modified a lot and became rapid fire. And then you're right, it was 8-Ball Deluxe limited edition.
I mean, the cabinet was also a lot different because I think you said in a previous interview that it had like a pedestal. So instead of having 4 legs, it was on a pedestal and it was lower for kids. Is that the same design we're talking about here?
Yeah, that's the same design we're talking about. There's pictures of it on my Facebook site somewhere. If you dig around, you can find them.
All right, we'll find it.
I've seen it. It's also I think it's part of the interview that you did in the Pinball magazine as well. So how does it go then from designing a cabinet to designing your first machine, which I think was it Special Force? Yeah.
Special Force was my first machine. Well, when I went to Bally and became a cabinet designer, the other wonderful thing that happened to me was that I met my wife at Bally and got married. She was the president's secretary. And
that's handy.
I got laid off a year later, and she knew I was going to get laid off, and she couldn't even tell me because she was very good at keeping corporate secrets.
Wow. So was she hinting to you like, hey, maybe you should be looking for other jobs just in case?
No, she didn't even hint.
That's amazing.
I'm going to have to ask her about that.
Yeah. I think there's probably enough time that's gone by you can actually get the truth this time.
Yep.
So then I went, fortunately I got a job at Gottlieb right away designing concepts for video games. And the one game that came out of my time there was the Us versus Them Laserdisc game. And so then I got laid off from there too. after about a year or a year and a half. And because they were bought by the Coca-Cola company at that time, and they laid off a lot of people. So then I was home not doing much. My wife was still working, of course, for Bally. So I thought I'd try my hand while I'm not doing anything at designing a pinball game. So I came up with the Special Force idea because at that time, the Rambo movie was very popular. So I based it on that. Took my little drawing to Bally, and they hired me again.
Was it weird walking into the company for a kind of a second time? Obviously, the company kind of changed a little bit since then, but
it was a little strange walking in there. But I already knew all the people there, so they had joined. They had merged with Midway at the time then, so I was just happy to be back designing pinball, starting to design pinball games. There was just something about the whole industry that I loved.
So, how do you become a pinball designer? I mean, it can't be as simple as you just do a sketch and all of a sudden you've got a team around you that says, yep, we're now going to put that into a machine. What was that process for you like?
Well, with the initial process, I just had this idea of Special Force, and then somehow I had an idea I wanted to do a funnel in the game. That hadn't been done before, and I wanted to make it look like a scene, and that's how I came up with all the layered plastic from the playfield. But I owe a lot to Jim Patla because he helped me a lot designing that first game and told me things I should do and shouldn't do, and he was very helpful.
And then obviously you then go on to what I refer to, and I think some people do as well, the first of, I guess, of a trilogy, I think you would say, which is, Party Animal. I sort of put those together, Party Animal, Dr. Dude, and Party Zone. Is that right of me to put those in as a bit of a trilogy?
Yeah, that's right. A lot of that was the influence of Greg, of the party stuff. Party Animal was actually, I think that was my idea because that term, Party Animal, was real popular at that time. So, but for me, that was the hardest game for me to design because I used up all my good ideas on Special Force. Yeah. Now I was forced to come up with some other stuff. So that was a difficult one for me.
Yeah, it's the difficult second album because they always, and then the reason why I sort of say that concept is, when you've got your first one, you've got all these years of, concepts in your mind that go bang, first one. Then your second one, you've got the clock is ticking. You've got to come up with everything within in a shorter period of time, and the pressure's on, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly how it was for me. And then after that, it got easier and more fun. Because I had confidence in myself that, I can do it again and again and again. So the whole party trilogy wasn't planned. It just kind of happened. My third game was actually going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Nobody at Williams really liked that theme, so it kind of sat on the back burner for a while, and then it eventually became Dr. Dude.
Right, okay. So that was the design that you had originally had for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is that right?
Yeah.
So Data East ended up making Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that was in May 1991. So did they maybe catch wind that you guys were going to do it? Because Dr. Dude was 1990. So yeah. So do you think that happened? Did someone catch wind that you guys were thinking about doing it and then grab the license off you, or?
I have no idea. They wouldn't have grabbed it off of us because nobody at Williams was interested in doing it.
So obviously the next machine, and I want to just talk about this one, Ryan, because I know Ryan hasn't necessarily played these machines from this era, but the next one after Party Animals is a really interesting one because it's Blackwater 100, and I believe that you've got a bit of a history with either motocross or motorcycles, and this machine's really interesting because it really is probably an unusual design for its time, and it's got all the molded plastics, and it's a very deep cabinet. Did you intentionally go into this thinking that you wanted to make something that was really quite different, or did it come from a natural progression of understanding motocross and what you needed to build in that environment?
It was a little bit of both, actually. The deep cabinet, that was actually innovated and introduced by Dan Langlois on... was it Lost World? Now I forget the name of Lost World. Yeah, he was the first one to do it playfield deep in the cabinet like that. And I thought that was a brilliant idea. So I wanted to do that with Blackwater, and I knew from racing in the real Blackwater, well, not racing, riding, and so it had a lot of hills and mountains. So I thought, well, that would be pretty cool. I could make it deep and make it as much like a motocross. Actually, that was a cross-country race. Make it as much like a cross-country race as I could.
So, Dennis, I mean, the cabinets of this game is obviously a little bit different than a normal cabinet. So, since you came into the industry as a cabinet designer, were you the one that were kind of mocking up these cabinets as well as designing the player field, or was someone else at this point doing that?
No, I had nothing to do with that cabinet, and I actually didn't like it. That was Jim Patla trying to come up with a way to save money on building the cabinets. So that's why it had that slanted bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also got a fairly innovative rule set at the time, because I mean, obviously you're trying to get in multi-ball as much as possible to, I guess, kind of simulate that whole racing environment, right?
Right. That's why I started with 3 balls at the starting line, because the start of a motocross race was really crazy with 20 or 30 bikes trying to get to the first turn at the same time. And so I wanted to start with 3 balls and make it like the start of a motocross race. And then eventually you lose 2 balls and you're kind of like, you're not racing in such a crowd anymore. You're racing kind of off by yourself until you pass somebody.
Yeah. Okay. And so then I guess we move to probably where you start talking about the games that you're really known for, and probably because they are now really sort of licensed theme as well. And the first one we'll talk about is Elvira and the Party Monsters, which was just, a major game at the time. It was, and I know you've said this before. It was a license, but it was not necessarily a license. And Cassandra Peters was, fairly easy to work with and hands off. So again, what was the process of coming up with Elvira and the Party Monsters?
Wow, I would have guessed that Party Monsters probably came from Greg because of our other party games. Did Party Zone come after Elvira? I guess it did. Yeah. Yeah,
it did.
Okay, so because of the first 2 party games, Greg, I think, came up with Elvira and the Party Monsters.
Sure.
There was a license that I don't think Williams had done any licenses up to that point, and so they were going to have Bally be the licensed games, and Williams would have been the unlicensed original games. And Roger Sharp came to everybody with that license, and Greg and I, of course, were really interested in it. And so I presented a lot of ideas. I had actually, maybe 6 months or a year before, I had been at this novelty store, and I found these little finger puppets. And I bought some of those because I thought, maybe I could use these in the pinball game someday, because I like the way their arms wiggled and stuff. So that's where that came from. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then obviously we've got Dr. Dude and Party Zone next. And I kind of think that I'll put this into context, because up until when we're going to go into the future and talk about scarcity in a minute, but up until that stage, you have got, Party Animal, Elvira and the Party Monsters, Dr. Dude, and Party Zone, and they're very funny games. Was that a love of humor in machines, or was that just of the era where people were putting humor in games, or was it something that you wanted to do?
No, I like to put humor in my games.
Yeah.
To me, it just makes it entertaining. I like to have a little bit of humor, which is just the opposite of Steve Ritchie. He's a 100% macho kind of game designer.
Do you think it's harder now to put humor in games than it was in the 80s and the 90s? Like, we'll talk about Whitewater in a second, but Whitewater is just kind of like fun in a box to begin with. But is it harder to replicate that, in 2018?
I don't seem to have much trouble putting humor in a game. That's sort of like, I just have a humorous attitude towards life. And what else did you ask me there? Oh, but doing it again. When I listen to Scared Stiff now, I can't believe all the double entendres we got away with.
No, we can't either. Like, how did you get away with stuff?
I find that Greg always tells a funny story that he had that game at home when his daughters were little girls, and they just thought it was a funny game. When they went off to college and came back home and played the game, they went, "Dad."
I'm having, what was it? I'm having multiple jackpots. Was that the one?
Yeah, I'm having multiple jackpots.
So then Whitewater. We talk about Whitewater, and I want to talk about this one because I think this is the first of your games which today fetches a really high price because it's considered an absolute classic game. Was it that popular when it came out in the day? Because it obviously sold, it says here at IPDB that it's, 7,000 units. So that's obviously, a good number. But, why does a game like that stand the test of time?
Wow, I wish I knew. I'd do it every time, wouldn't I?
But did you know when you were because obviously it's whitewater rafting, right? That's not necessarily the most exciting or globally appealing theme. Did you know that you were making a great game due to its layout and rules?
I knew that the layout and rules, I knew that the layout was unique. I liked trying to make environmental games, that look like it's taking place somewhere, not just a bunch of mechanical items sitting somewhere on a playfield. I liked the environment of Blackwater 100. I liked the environment of Special Force, and I suppose Whitewater would probably have been the ultimate environment then.
There's a term for that, Dennis. World under glass.
Yeah, world under glass. That's right. Yeah, that's what I love about pinball. Creating my own fantasy world under glass. Then I can escape from reality for a while.
Yeah, Dennis, I've got Whitewater. I was born in the mid '80s, so Whitewater was probably one of the first pinball machines I ever played. My dad owned it, and
oh wow.
Yeah, I was absolutely kind of blown away when I played it back in the day because it just had all these cool features that no other pinball machine had. And then now, as an adult, I've got enough disposable income that I rebought the machine, and I kind of just look at it, and there's different things that people like about pinball. Some people like the social aspect. Some people like just art. For me, and I don't think some people know what they like. They just like something, and they're attracted to pinball in general. And I've been on this kind of journey to figure out what it is that I like, because I can never put my finger on it. What I've found, after playing kind of your games and other people's games is there's a certain way that you design pinball machines and ramps and shots that connect to other shots that is kind of like the ball flows in a kind of a poetic way, and Whitewater is probably the greatest example where you've created a pinball machine that the ball, it seems like the ball is cascading down Whitewater Rapids, and it might sound lame to someone to say that, but the ball is the canoe going down the river, right?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for saying that, and I did try to make the ramps like rivers, like it was a flowing stream, like the ball was rolling down some kind of flowing stream or waterfall or something. I definitely had that in mind when I was designing it. When I look at that game now, I think, how the hell did I ever do that? And I couldn't draw it at first because there were so many different levels, and I wasn't sure was the ball going to fit here or is the ball going to fit there. So I made that foam core model of it that Jim Shelberg has, I think. Probably everybody's seen that. And I built that first, and then I made my drawing from that.
Well, I mean, another reason why I love this game is the upper playfield. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of pinball machines at the upper playfields, or the ball's kind of staying up there for a long time, but for me, yours is the perfect example where you hit a shot, and then the ball feeds to the upper flipper, and you miss, the ball's back down to your flipper, but you've got two shots to go for. One is that beautiful Insanity Falls jackpot shot, when multi-ball starts, and I don't know. It's an amazing game. I don't think it's leaving my collection for a while. Dennis, when I walk people through my collection, I point to the translite and say, "Look, there's Attack from Mars. Look, there's Tron Pinball." When I come to your pinball machine, I say, "That's Whitewater," but people are looking at it, and there's no Whitewater written on the translite at all. So, was that a mistake, or was there an issue there, or how did that come about?
Oh wow! I don't think we'd make a mistake that big. Oh, guys, we forgot to put a title on it. Could have been a mistake, but
it's on the topper, right?
we put the name on the topper. We just wanted to do something different again.
Ah, okay. My topper was like, my pinball machine came without the topper, which for some people is one of the best part of the pinball machine.
Right, exists. Yeah.
There's always a story where someone walked into Bally at the time, or Bally Williams, and he was a salesman, and he said, "Oh, I can make it move like this." I mean, the story to me, when I hear it, sounds like some guy just kind of came off the street. But were you trying to contract people to make this topper, like different engineering places, or?
No, we had. I see. At that point, I don't remember whether we were going to. I think that at that point, and that's a true story. A guy just came in off the street trying to sell this process. And what we saw, I don't think, was waterfalls, but we saw right away, oh, wow, this would work, and we could make waterfalls out of this. And so at that point, that's when we decided, I guess, to put the name on the topper and not on the back glass.
Okay. I need that topper.
Yeah, well, I guess it draws your attention right to that, if not already the waterfall moving is there as well. So you need to get a topper.
We were real happy with the way that worked out.
I don't think people even make third-party toppers. I think there was someone that tried, but it didn't really work out the same way. I don't know. One of those.
Yeah, I think you can get one that's static, but I don't think they've ever really been able to recreate the movement, which is probably just lenticular anyway.
I've got the boards.
Nobody's been able to recreate that movement. That's true, and I think even some people contacted the original company that did it to see if they still had the dies, and then I kind of lost track of that story, but it was some kind of very unique process that they came up with, that the chasing lights would then make it look like it was moving.
Okay,
so moving then on to one of Ryan's favourite machines, and I'm still yet to play this enough to know what I think, but what I do know is this is where, and Ryan and I spoke about this a few weeks ago when we were saying, Steve Ritchie's known as the king of flow, right? But your machines have just as much flow, but in a different way. But we're talking about Demolition Man, where you managed to make a wide body that has flow.
Well, yes, I did, and again, that was fun for me. I just tried to make a lot of flowing shots. There's a lot of combo shots on that game.
Were you forced to make it?
Keep the ball going.
Sorry.
Was I forced? No, I said, I think that'll be a cool license. Sylvester Stallone, that'll be great.
So, I mean, were you forced to make it into a wide body, or was that your choice because you wanted to put so many different shots on the playfield?
I don't remember the answer to that.
Because, I mean, it gets played a lot in competitions at the moment, and, I mean, I guess games with a balanced rule set, they kind of survive a really long time in the competition scene. A lot of people kind of avoid those two left shots because the payoff and the risk reward for them isn't great enough for them. So there's always this kind of like argument that Demolition Man is a wide body, but it could be possibly a standard body pinball machine because you kind of concentrate on the middle and the right more than the two left shots.
Yeah, now see, I'm not the greatest rules guy in the world, so a lot of the rules were Mike Boone. No, it wasn't Mike Boone.
Ted.
That was Ted Estes. Yeah, that was one of his first games too, I believe.
Well, this is the thing. We talked about whitewater, and we have like the ball cascading down the waterfall. Demolition Man somehow, like, because obviously Demolition Man is a 90s action movie. When you hit those ramps in combos, it feels like you're fighting someone. Like the ball comes back in a kind of in an aggressive manner. So it's kind of rare in pinball, or to me anyway, that. Usually my interaction and the whole world on the glass thing is to do with sound and art, but for me, especially in those two games, that's kind of like the theme integration with the way the shot feels. Yeah, not really a question, just a statement.
Well, thank you for noticing that, because I actually tried to do that. That was the reason. When I watched that movie or read the script, there was just so many weapons and shooting going on in that game. I wanted the player to feel like he was part of that shooting action. So that's why I came up with those handles on the side to make it feel like you were holding some kind of a weapon.
And that's unique, and you guys had to redesign the hinges and the cabinet, right? So that was a one-off design for Williams at the time?
I think just the hinges had to be redesigned. Some of the engineers didn't think it was going to work, and then so I played around in AutoCAD and figured out a way to make the hinges work without changing anything else. So just a regular cabinet.
Okay, so my last question on Demolition Man, and it's something that we always ask people when we talk about Demolition Man, do you know how the 3 seashells work?
Marty.
The what?
The shells. From the movie. It's a long time ago.
I'm showing my age because I don't even know what you're talking about.
There's a scene in the movie where they don't use toilet paper anymore, and everyone laughs at Sylvester Stallone saying he doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells.
Yeah,
we still want to know how it works.
Yep. Dennis, did you see the recent news article about Sandra Bullock kind of complaining in an interview that she'd never got a Demolition Man pinball machine?
I did see that, and I thought everybody got one.
No, just the men.
Just the men. She was upset. Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, if she would come over to my house, I would gladly give her mine.
No way. Would you?
No, I don't even have one.
Well, because I remember in an interview that I don't know when it was probably about 2015. You said at the time that you didn't have machines at home. Is that still the case?
That's still the case. I have no pinball machines at home. I always say by the time I'm done designing it and playing it 8 or 10 or 12 hours a day for 8 months, I'm pretty tired of it, and I want to move on to something else and create something new.
But I would understand that in that year, but surely enough time has passed that when you see a whitewater pinball machine, it doesn't have that effect on you. You're like, oh my gosh, I spent so many hours trying to perfect these ramps, this and that. Surely enough time has passed, right?
Well, you would think that, but I don't even play very much anymore.
That's awesome.
I just like to design the game. The one hobby that I have now is jukeboxes. I have like 7 different jukeboxes I've restored, and I still have more to work on.
Before we move on from Demolition Man, I want to quickly talk about Sylvester Stallone's callouts in there, right? I'm not sure if you remember, but if you play Museum Multi-Ball, which is the second multi-ball there, every time you hit a jackpot, the callout is okay. But
clever.
Yeah, if the game obviously is combo city, you just hit combos all day long. So if you hit like a 4-way combo, it's just was that
You do it so well every time, Ryan.
Was that in the script? Did you say, I'm not sure if you were involved in writing the script for Sylvester Stallone, but did you say please like yell like you're about to shoot something, during that museum scene, during multi-ball? Do you remember how that came about?
No, but I generally do write a lot of the script, and I wasn't involved at the sound recording at that time. Our sound guy went out, I think, to California to record them, and I think he was a bit intimidated by recording Stallone and Wesley Snipes, and I don't think they got a ton of direction. And he might have just grunted, and we decided, hey, let's use that.
It's as good as you're going to get, probably.
Well, I mean, there's a swear rum as well. So, were you involved in kind of getting that taken out of the normal gameplay?
Say that again.
I believe there's like a swear ROM, so there's an alternative ROM that you can put on Demolition Man, where Wesley Snipes, drops a couple of F-bombs, I think, at the credit scene and during some of the scenes. So did you write any of that script, or was that just something that happened organically?
No, we didn't know. That was Wesley and Stallone ad-libbing.
Okay.
I think Wesley was having less fun at the recording session than Stallone was. He didn't seem like he wanted to be there at all.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, at the time, so 94 it's coming out, so let's say it's being developed 93, 94. Pinball is going through a massive time at that time, right? Do you think that Stallone and Wesley Snipes were sort of really aware of how popular pinball was, or could they not really give a crap at all?
I would say they weren't that interested in it. I don't think they knew at that time how popular pinball was with the normal world.
Yeah, and I guess with movies, like, they've got to go through so much licensing. Like, there's, figurines and lunch boxes and backpacks and all that kind of crap. They're probably just thinking, oh, yeah, it's just another one of these bloody merch things that we've got to do.
Yeah, right.
Moving on to your next game, which was Indy 500. Now, I didn't know this, and when I was just doing a little bit of research, Bally Williams released 9 pinball machines in 1995. Theatre of Magic, Dirty Harry, No Fear, Indy 500, Johnny Mnemonic, Whodunit, Jackpot, Congo, and Attack from Mars, which, when you think about it now, that is absolutely insane. So how do you... Yeah. What was the mood like at Bally Williams when you were just one of these 9 pinball machines? I mean, were you fighting over licenses, or you just kind of got what you got given and had to make the best out of it?
Again, I don't remember that. I think Indy 500 is something was offered and was something that I wanted, so they let me do it.
Was the reason why you sort of like would accept a license like that is because even though I know it's not bike racing, it's still sort of that racing environment that you create?
Oh yeah, I like that. I remember I used to always, when I was young, the Indy 500 wasn't even televised. It was on the radio, and I used to always listen to it on the radio. I guess I've always been interested in any kind of racing.
Yeah, because this one, for me, I know Ryan was saying before about, white water and how you've got the world under glass. And so for me, this is the one where I think that the theme integration really works. And it's the orbits, it's the ramps, but it's the sound call-outs and it's the engine noise. This is the one that I think really, and I was on record saying that I think this is my favorite of your machines is Indy 500. What was the process for this one, putting this game together?
Well, first of all, thank you again for saying that. That makes all the hard work worthwhile when people tell you how much they love the games you've done. It's how many people have jobs where people come up to you and tell you, I love the accounting you did today.
Oh, Dennis, all the accountants that listen to us are now face-palming and considering different careers.
I'm just saying we're fortunate that we get feedback on what we do with our career.
It's not always good feedback. I'm sure you've got a lot of criticism for, you can't please everyone, right?
People that like to criticize.
Is that just water off a duck's back at the moment? Like, do you care about what everyone thinks of certain games that you've done in the past?
Well, of course I like it when they say they like it, and if they say they don't like it, well, that's everybody has different likes and dislikes, and it doesn't bother me if they don't like something I've done. I generally please more people than I disappoint.
On Indy 500, I love the lock shot because it's quite hard but satisfying. It's also the jackpot shot. I didn't play this game in the 90s. The first time I ever played it was a couple of years ago when I got back into pinball. So, there's an issue with a lot of them that I've played where, if you hit that shot perfectly, it pops out. But this is a 20-year-old game that I'm playing. So was that ever an issue when the game first came out, or was that something that kind of developed 20 years on after it got 20,000 players?
I don't remember any specific issue like that with the ball popping out of the turbo unit. Yeah,
so you hit the shot perfectly, and the shot doesn't stick. So people kind of put like dead bounce rubber and stuff on there now, so that it absorbs. Because the game is so fast that if you hit that in a combo, the ball kind of has so much momentum it bounces out.
Yeah, I don't recall having that issue, but I'm glad there's a fix.
Yeah, and on Ron, I don't remember that being an issue when it came out either. I think that is just where over the years and it not being perfectly aligned like it used to be. I'd say that's probably the case.
Could be.
Yeah.
Last question I have on Indy 500. Sorry, Matty, I'm cutting in.
No, it's fine.
You're the designer, so you might not know about this because you're the software guys. Put Easter eggs and stuff in there and do whatever they want. But there is a call out, and I think me and a mate, Dave, asked you this at Expo in 2016. You weren't aware of it. I'm not sure if you looked it up now. But there's a point where the pit crew says something like, "Shoot the blinking light, you wanker," if you can't hit the shot. Do you know who put that in there and how to activate that?
I have no idea how to activate that. And wanker came from one of the racing teams. And then Mark Wayna. Oh, that's terrible. I couldn't remember his name. And, in the racing teams and the British racing teams and stuff, they would always use the term wanker. So we just stuck it in there.
But with a game like Indy 500, and as I said, because I was saying like the sound and the call-outs are really integral to you feeling like you're being in a race, how much do you work with the sound guy and the rules guy and the coder to bring your design and layout to life?
I usually work very close with the sound guy, and other people can help with the speech and everything, but I do a lot of the speech writing, but then I have input from other people on the team too. I think I work less closely with the programmers because they do a lot of stuff they want, and nobody understands what they do. So if you want something particular done and they say that can't be done, well, then you're kind of stuck and you can't do it.
Or do it yourself.
Yeah, well, if I knew how, I would have. Yeah.
So your next game was Scared Stiff, and that is, I guess, a true sequel to Elvira and the Party Monsters. Were distributors, back in the day, because I know distributors had a lot of power, especially the European ones, over what games got made and what gets taken out and put in. Were they excited for another Elvira game, or were they kind of rolling their eyes and saying, this isn't going to sell because Elvira and the Party Monsters already exists?
I don't really know how the distributors felt. I know management wasn't that crazy about it, and Greg and I had to do a lot of selling to get them to allow us to do it. So we made several presentations to management.
It sold, 4,000 units, which, if you can do that in 2018, you're probably a genius. But back then, were those good numbers or kind of in the middle of the road?
Probably kind of middle of the road numbers. I think other Williams games at the time were doing 6 or 7, maybe. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
But again, Scared Stiff is another one of these games, and we always, I guess you can, for us, you can rate the popularity of a machine by how much it's getting sold for these days, or obviously resold, and Scared Stiff just has just a very high price on it these days, and it's got to do with more than the theme. We all love Elvira, but what do you think about that machine when looking back on it that you think is pretty special?
Well, I liked the monster slide plate, monster slide ramp. I think visually it was very interesting. Greg's artwork, of course, was beautiful again. And the humor. I think the humor had a lot to do with the popularity of that game. I know the rules weren't extremely deep, but during those times, we weren't really making games for the home market. We were making games for arcades, and super deep rules weren't really necessary at that time.
Of course.
Yeah. But it's still got one of the best, the coolest end of wizard mode things to happen in pinball, with it going absolutely bonkers, right?
Yeah, I like that.
I know, and I did do that in front of somebody, and they kind of looked and said, is there something wrong with the machine? It's like, no, it's actually meant to do that. But the first time you do that, you think, what the hell is actually going on here?
Good, it worked then.
So then, after Scared Stiff, there's a 10-year gap in working or releasing a game. I'm not sure if you were doing anything on the side, but you talked about before with your first game having all these ideas, and your second game is harder. Was this that situation? Were you thinking about pinball on a daily or weekly basis in those 10 years and wanting to put certain things in Pirates of the Caribbean?
No, actually, I got pretty irritated with pinball after I, again, laid off from Williams.
When you got laid off at Williams, was that the period where they, I guess they weren't making enough money, so I think I remember in an interview, like I think it was with Cameron Silver, saying he doesn't know how he survived that period, and he thinks it was because he was new and he was getting paid like peanuts compared to like someone like you, like a more well-known designer, so they just kind of were trying to save money at that time.
That was part of it, I'm sure. They laid off 3 whole design teams. Me and John Trudeau and Barry Osler all got laid off, and yeah, I was making some decent money at that time, so that had to be part of it.
Okay.
So then after that, I kind of bounced around doing some redemption games. None of them were extremely successful. Well, Tower Power I did for Skee Ball, that was in every Chuck E. Cheese and every Dave & Buster's for years. And then I went to work for Joe Kalinkow at IGT for a couple of years. I was designing sort of mechanical bonus counting devices that would be like a bonus game at the end of your slot reel game. There would be some bonus games, and they were mechanical. I got 6 or 7 patents for that stuff. While I was working for IGT, Ray called me and asked me if I wanted to go to work for Stern, and I said yes, of course. And because to me, pinball is just way more fun than slot machines. I was just thrilled to come back and be able to do another pinball game, and I thought the Pirates license was awesome. So, again, I thought I was very fortunate to be in that situation.
So, Pirates of the Caribbean at that point was kind of a red-hot intellectual property, a license. So how do you kind of be absent from the pinball industry for 10 years and then land that versus some other title that they were doing, like a B grade title? Did you ask for that, or did they say, Dennis, come work for Stern and you're also going to get Pirates of the Caribbean?
I don't remember that either. So how the Pirates came about, I don't really remember, but I just thought I was extremely fortunate to be able to do that for my first game back in the industry again.
You've said in previous interviews that working with Disney was quite hard. They were very kind of restrictive on what assets you could have. Do you kind of scratch your head a little bit when you heard that another company, Jersey Jack, were interested in doing a Pirates of the Caribbean pinball machine for a second time?
Well, I wondered about it, but I knew there had been a lot more movies since the original one, so there was a lot more stuff a lot more information to pull from to design a game. And, I'm not one to criticize that because I did Elvira 3 times.
So you worked with David Thiel on sound, and I know you're involved with him at Deeproot as well. Pirates of the Caribbean sold in amazing numbers. Do you think it's sold well, and maybe you don't know, and maybe it's just one of those things, but do you think it sold well because of the layout, the theme, or maybe the whole world under glass, like that toy ship mechanism?
Yeah, the ship's amazing.
Yeah, I think the ship was a toy that everybody loved, and I think, like you said, it was a world under glass. It was a popular movie, and it just all came together.
Okay, so then after that, we've got Wheel of Fortune. Now, this is really interesting because, as far as the layout goes, it's actually a really good layout. There's a lot of flow, there's a lot of shots, but obviously you've got the really interesting flipper gap. What was the genesis of that? Why did we go with that interesting flipper gap style?
Again, it's me trying to do something different just to keep my own interest up, and I like to challenge myself with doing things differently. And they did that a lot in the older days, so I thought, well, why not bring it back? If you play my game, you play in my world. So
yep. Yeah, I understand that.
Gary hated it.
Right. I remember when I first played it, I didn't get it, right? But I remember it was probably about 6 months after that, I was in an arcade. It was actually in LA, and a lot of the machines there, they weren't really playing all that well, but this Wheel of Fortune was. So I kept playing it over and over again until I absolutely got it, worked out that flipper gap, and found it to be a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh, good. Thank you. Finally,
but there's a learning.
Well,
I know that Bowen Kerins also likes it as well. But I think that there is probably the challenge with it is that there really is a learning curve for that machine, and when you're first going to play it, maybe the first or second time, it's probably not enough times to be able to adjust your play style to get used to that, because it really is very different.
Yeah, right. You're absolutely right about that. So it would take a long time to get used to it and comfortable with it because the bottom was so different. But like I said, I was just getting tired of doing the same bottom over and over and over again. I wanted to challenge myself and do something different.
Well, did that come from, I've heard in an interview previously that you wanted to do a slightly different bottom on Pirates of the Caribbean, and you said that the left out lane would have a jet bumper in there and a bunch of targets kind of crowded around the jet bumper, and if the ball spells out parlay, then you get your ball back. It's a second lease on life. Now,
well, I've never heard that happen.
Yes, does that sound familiar now with another pinball machine?
Familiar.
Well, on Wizard of Oz, okay, now
Joe Balser.
Who's what? Joe Balser. I'm sorry, man. My old brain. You know what I tell my wife is that every gray hair is like a dead memory. So Joe said, I want to do this thing with the pop bumper in the bottom. And I said, oh, cool. I said, I did that. I tried to do that on Pirates. So I showed that to him, and then it got put into Wizard of Oz.
Well, that's great, because my question when coming up to Wizard of Oz was going to be, like, obviously I think you designed, the spinning house. But yeah. The question I was going to ask was, what sort of input or influence did you have on other parts of the game? And you've answered it by there, that, that particular area is your design effectively.
Well, like I said, I didn't tell Joe. I believe, as my memory serves me correctly or not, I believe Joe said he wanted to do something like that. So then I showed him what I did. So he came up with it independently, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. So really, was it just what was the involvement with Wizard of Oz then? Obviously, the house design. What else did you have some input in?
Really, not much. I think the right out lane. I think that was mine because there was a lot of space there. So we just put those rollovers in there that were a little harder to get. You had to nudge the game to try to get them all. And then the house design was mine. Jumping back to Pirates really quickly again, you also said that you had somewhere on the playfield, which got priced out, was a bunch of inline drop targets. Now, I might be wrong, but I don't think that any of your games still, to this date, have inline drop targets. Is that something that you've been kind of itching to have a machine with that in there, or is that something that you kind of said, okay, well, it's going to be in Pirates, it was theme integrated there, let's move on? Yeah, I've always thought inline drop targets were cool.
Well, they're kind of the flavor of the month at the moment, right?
Yeah, I actually use them on Special Force.
Okay, so it is there. Okay. I haven't played that game.
So then let's move to Whoa Nelly Big Juicy Melons, because this is a really interesting title at the time, because you're effectively recreating an EM, electromechanical environment, with modern components. When did this idea first come about?
I was unemployed and Greg was unemployed, and we met again at the Seattle Pinball Show, and we were having breakfast together, and Greg was talking, and I think there were a number of custom games being built then, and Greg said, hey, we're pinball designers, why don't we make a custom game? And we had nothing else going, so I had this old Continental Cafe game in my shop, and I thought, well, let's make a game out of that, because we couldn't afford programmers, we couldn't afford hardware, we couldn't afford anything like that, so we thought we would just update an older game, and when we showed the game at one of the shows, that's when we met Kerry Emming, who came up to us and said, hey, I could design a solid-state hardware system for this game. And we said, cool, let's do it. So then it just progressed from there. So, but we had to stick to the Continental Cafe rules, but I redesigned the playfield, but it uses all the same Continental Cafe rules.
Wow, I don't know what Continental Cafe is. I have to look it up.
That's an old Gottlieb game from 57.
Wow.
It had 3 gobble holes right down the middle of the playfield. So I eliminated 2 of them and moved one up to the right a little bit more.
Okay. So how does the journey go then from coming up with that design and then taking that to Stern for production?
That was like a long 2 or 3 year process for that. We got it built, and we had it. That took a lot of work for me and Greg. We figured out we had play fields printed in at CPR, I think, and we just had to learn a lot. And we had a lot of guys from Team EM help us. We had a lot of help from guys in the industry getting these 3 games running. And then we built 1 electromechanical, and then we built 3 solid state that Terry gave us the hardware for. And then we took it to Stern, and they said they'd like to build it. And then 2 years later, they finally did it.
Yeah, but did you have to pitch hard to Stern, or were they pretty receptive to it early on?
They were pretty receptive to it. Gary liked it because it was old school. The thing at that time that Greg and I didn't understand was the current political climate of humor and boobs.
Well, yeah, it did get a bit of backlash, didn't it, when it came to the theme?
Yeah, and I was stunned. I didn't know. My wife thought it was funny. My daughter thought it was funny. Greg's daughters thought it was funny. But man, we didn't have our finger on the pulse of what's going on at that point.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that affected the sales of the pinball machine at all, or people putting it out on location?
I think it affected it. Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any involvement with the retheming of that to Can Crusher, or is that Stern just saying we've got kind of too many parts, or we didn't sell as many Wonellies as we'd like to, so we're going to retheme it and use all the parts that way?
That might have been part of the reason. Greg would know more about that than me. I wasn't involved with that at all.
But I mean, it's your design, so do you don't get any paychecks or anything for that, any royalties or?
Yeah, we got royalties for that.
Yeah, okay. So overall, are you happy with the Wonelli Pabs Can Crusher project?
I probably would have been happier if the theme had been a bit different.
Sure.
We based it on old fruit crate labels. I love the artwork on. I don't know if you have those in Australia, but in America, the old fruit crate labels from the 30s and 40s were just beautiful artwork, and a lot of them were very risque and had a lot of boob humor on them for some reason. Because boobs sell, right?
Yeah,
sure.
So we tried. I wanted the artwork to be like an old fruit crate label, and then I wanted to pay. Greg and I both had the same feeling about this. He liked old fruit crate labels too. We also both enjoyed Roy Parker's art, and Roy Parker always had a lot of happy, smiling people in the back glass. So that's why all those guys are in there smiling and having a good time looking at Melanie.
So big juicy melons.
So, I mean, there's a lot of other pinball like that. We almost gone through your whole history, and we're up to the last couple of years. But there's still so many other pinball machines that you've kind of been involved in. So, can we touch on what your involvement was with Alien Pinball, because you were kind of briefly involved with Highway, and then you departed, and it's not on your IPDB profile, but my understanding is that most of that original layout was yours. Is that correct?
Yeah, the original layout was all mine. They moved the upper flipper around a little bit and changed it a little, but not a lot. It was mostly my layout.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. If you look at it now, do you see that it is pretty much still your design?
Yeah, it's pretty much my design. They changed, a number of things, but the lower left flipper, the 2 flippers at the bottom, and then again I had another device on the left outline. I forget whether that made it into the production game or not.
So knowing what you know now about Highway Pinball, and I don't know, I was probably reading between the lines at the time, but you did sort of drop the project pretty early, and from what I remember, it's because Andrew Highway had way too ambitious timelines to get these machines to market. Was that sort of like, looking back now, was that like really early warning signs for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I worked on that thing for probably about a year, and I never had a playing Whitewood, and things were just going way slower, and I could see. And when he announced at Expo that he was going to have games the following May, and he was accepting the part that got me was that he was accepting deposits on the game, promising people delivery in May, and I knew that was absolutely impossible, and I didn't want people giving deposits thinking that it was one of my game designs and they were going to get it in May. I couldn't live with that. So I left.
Yeah, we all know what kind of transpired after that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, we know what happened.
So were you working with kind of, because I said there's a whole bunch of kind of things on your IPDB profile around this time. I mean, were you working simultaneously anywhere else, like at Multimorphic on Lexi Lightspeed, or was that after?
Multimorphic came after Alien.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, but before then, I think what did you have much to do with the spooky machines like America's Most Haunted and Rob Zombie?
No, I really had no design input on those.
Okay, you're credited for some reason as a designer on Rob Zombie. So I'm not sure what.
On Rob Zombie, I can't remember what I might have done on that.
Yeah, you probably spoke about it once at a conference, and people are like, "Right, we'll put him down on the IPDB." There you go. that's what it happens.
So, okay, fast forward to now. You get a call from Robert Mueller. I'm guessing. I don't think he'd be writing you an email and says, "Hey, Dennis, I'm forming a super team of employees, and we're going to make pinball." And you accept that job, and now you're working for Deeproot. Is that how did that come about?
Well, I took, at first I had a contract with Stern to do Elvira 3. When my contract ran out, they were nowhere near getting the game finished. And
so was your work finished on that project? Like, what do you mean by the contract? So they said, we're going to employ you for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, I had a contract for a certain amount of time, and when that was over, I wasn't getting paid anymore. And I had expected the game to be finished by the end of my contract, but it wasn't even close to being finished. But since it was my baby and I loved the playfield and it's got 3 pretty unique toys on it, I kept going to meetings and stuff, but I wasn't getting paid anymore. And then I had the offer come through from Deeproot, and he offered to pay me to design pinball games again. And so I took it, because at that point I didn't have a job, I didn't have any income. And I thought, well, I want to do this. I don't know if he's ever going to make it. I don't know how serious he is, but...
It sounds like not a bit of a sticky situation to be in, because you said Elvira, the pinball machines are your baby, but you still need to eat, you still need to pay your bills. So is the Elvira pinball machine, it's not scrapped or anything, is it? Because it was kind of officially announced...
No, it's not scrapped.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I have no idea when. I'm really actually not involved with it at all anymore.
So you just hand over your design and they just go into production with it?
Well, they may make some modifications to the playfield, but it was my playfield design. When I left, they still had some work to do on some of the mechanical devices. Mm-hmm. And but as far as I know, they're still going to make it.
Is it an LCD pinball machine, or is it a throwback to a previous era?
No, it's a full-fledged modern pinball game.
Okay.
And it probably goes back to one of the questions that we were saying before about humor. And we've discussed this in the past about, an Elvira machine in today's, sensitive climate. Do you think it will still have all that same sort of risque humor?
I don't really know now since I'm not involved, but I can imagine it will. But if it does, it will be a separate setting.
Okay. Well, I mean, me and Marty have talked about it. Elvira can get away with anything because she's the powerful, independent woman, and so you said you put big juicy melons, or you make an original theme, then people kind of crucify it like Lucy, Lucy Art, blah 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 blah. I've talked about it in detail before, but Elvira seems to rise above that because she is in control of all of that, right?
Yeah, and it's a real character. It's not something we made up. So I guess that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also think
been around forever.
The parrot. But yeah, and she has been around forever, right? But also, she is a parody. Like it really isn't about her trying to be sexualized. It's her actually making fun of people that find those characters sexualized. So I still think that kind of humor, which is a bit tongue in cheek, is still quite relevant.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, yeah, she pokes fun at herself, so that's
Sure.
that's probably why that works a lot better.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing that come out whenever. As I said, it was announced at TPF, a while ago. I'm not sure if it was meant to be announced on purpose or if it just kind of accidentally leaked out. But I guess it would be a kind of not a mixed feeling, but a bit weird for you because this happened at Bailey Williams, right? I mean, you were designing Scared Stiff, and you weren't working there anymore when the game was released, so you kind of didn't get to be a part of that final process of the machine rolling out onto the line. Is that accurate?
It turns out that Elvira has been a curse for me. And they've been successful, so maybe me not being around when it's finished has something to do with their success. I don't know. But on Elvira and the Party Monsters, and there's that story, I crashed my dirt bike really bad and spent 3 months in the hospital. And then on Scared Stiff, I got laid off. And now on this one, I'm not part of the finished project either. So
just never, ever, ever make an Elvira for Dennis, okay?
Yeah, please.
I never will.
Okay, so can I then talk about licenses versus, let's say, a non-license? And I'll give you a bit of an example, and then you can sort of, take it or not. But let's say, the original trilogy of Party Animal, Dr. Dude, and Party Zone. Could you make a fourth in that sort of world, or really is it just about licenses these days?
Oh, it's not. No, it's not just about licenses these days. I would not make another Dr. Dude, Party Animal, Party Zone. I'm done with party games. But
Is it the gray hair, Dennis?
Yeah, that must be it. I love to do original themes, and the theme I'm doing for Deep Root is an original theme that I created that I just love. So I'm hoping this all works out and these come out because it's going to be cool.
So what's it like working at Deep Root? Like, we hear just all this passion, enthusiasm, and this belief that it's just going to be an absolute success. You're happy to be there, obviously.
I'm happy to be there. I've actually only visited the place 3 times, and I've only been down there for like 2-3 days at a time. But the people they have there, I am so impressed with. They've got young, talented, aggressive, hungry guys working for them. The art department is incredible. The mechanical engineers are incredible. The electrical engineers are incredible. They're all excited and enthused to be a part of this. Is it going to happen as fast as Robert wants it to happen? I can't answer that, but it's going to happen.
Well, he's not taking anyone's money, so I guess that's the difference with, what you experience.
That's the wonderful thing about it.
Yeah.
He's not trying to build his company on people's money, so really you can't give him any criticism. Just wait till he delivers.
I guess the criticism was that, no one knows what's going on. I mean, and we're not going to ask you deep probing questions about, Deep Root and their methods and things like that because, the company's going through its process and they're going to have their big reveal. But I guess the criticism is that, we don't know. And, one of the first statements that came out, was kind of about, Robert being a bit bemused about the pinball hobby. And I kind of agree in a way because it's very easy after maybe 1 year of being into pinball and buying a couple of pinball machines that everything that happens becomes the norm. And you talk to pinball people all the time and whereas when I first got into pinball machines, like, someone bought a new pinball machine that has an issue, and you're just like, that's pinball kind of thing, and I'm like, what? Like, there should be a warranty on this and this and that. So, do you feel like Robert has that kind of that passion that he wants to take pinball in a new direction, or do you feel like he just wants to be a company and share a piece of the current pie that's going on?
Robert's a very smart man, and he's made a lot of money. If he didn't have passion for pinball, getting into pinball is not a smart move because it's not a business where you're going to make a hell of a lot of money. Robert is extremely passionate about pinball, and I actually like Robert a lot. He can be a bit outspoken at times, but he's young and he's brash and he wants to do something new and different, and everybody there is working towards that goal. I'm really excited to be there, and I'm excited that Robert is letting me do this original theme that I want to do.
Has this original theme been kind of in the back of your mind for a while, and you haven't been able to do it with any other company that you've been involved with, or is this something that you dreamed up once you started working at Deeproot?
No, it's been in the back of my mind for a while. But since it was an unlicensed theme, it was never getting done.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
And who's working on your? I mean, so we know some of the big pinball names that work there. Are you working with any of them? Like, do you get help from any of the other designers? Because there's Barry there, there's John Norris, there's John Popaduke, there's David Thiel doing the sound, and now there's Steve Bowden that's going to help write design the rule sets. Are you working with any of those guys, or is it more of a solo effort at the moment?
When I have questions about something or a drawing that I don't have, Barry's always there to help me and get me that drawing, or John Popaduke will help me too with if I don't have a drawing, because I'm doing all my work here at my house, and now John spends most of his time there, and Barry, of course, moved there, and I'm real excited to go work with Dave Thiel again. I think he's a great talent. We worked on Pirates together. Yeah, I'm just really, honestly, I'm not. This isn't just bullshit. I'm blowing. I'm very impressed with everybody there. It's more exciting. It's a more exciting environment than any pinball company I've been at, and I think that's because they're new and passionate, and they're aggressive, and they really want to do something great. And I love working with these younger guys who have a lot of ideas with technologies that I don't know a lot about.
Well, do you think that's an important balance in a pinball company these days, where if it was all kind of the same people that have been around since the 80s, pinball wouldn't be kind of progressing forward. Whereas if it's all new people, then the company might fail because they don't know all the pitfalls about, you can't put shots here and you can't do this, and this mechanical thing will break. Do you think it's an important mix to have both?
Yes, it's an important mix to have both. I think so. And if they're going to have failures at Deeproot, they're going to have things that don't work, but they've got the passion and the energy to work through it and figure it out and move on.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
I've got more questions. I was just letting you ask a question, Marty.
No,
you keep going, Ryan.
Okay.
I'm the kind of guy that doesn't have a lot to say. I normally express myself by the things I make instead of the words I spew.
Well, I want to talk about your pinball designs because, just in general, because, as we've talked about just now, you design a pinball machine to try and be that world under glass to represent the theme that you're integrating. And you've also said that you're not much of a rules guy. So how do you collaborate with, because when you say you're not a rules guy and I don't do much about rules, usually that's kind of like a red light for me, like, oh my gosh, this game might not be that good, but somehow it always kind of seems to work out in your game. So, how important do you think the success of your game is long term? Do you think that's in the hands of the coder, or do you think that starts with you?
Well, I think it starts with me. I'm like all game designers, we're generally like the director of the entire project. I'm not saying I'm bad at rules. I just I enjoy doing basic rules. You do this, this, and this, and this happens, and then the programmers get in there and add all the depth to it. They're all important to the final product. Okay,
so you're not designing games without a rule set. You still got the basic rules down pat. So
yeah, I always have a basic rule set of what you have to do to get further in the game.
So are you working with Steve Bowden yet? Because I know that was a pretty recent hiring. Are you working with him on rules, or do you already have kind of the rule set laid out for your game? I'm
not working with Steve yet. I don't think he's moved down there yet. I was there last week, and he wasn't there yet. But I'm looking forward to working with Steve. But in addition, Deeproot has a story writer.
Yep.
And he came from the comic book industry, and he is awesome. His name is Quinn, and he is helping me flesh out the storyline for this original theme that I'm doing, and he's doing that for all the games that they're working on. He's really great. He's got a zillion great ideas. So And with that fleshing out of the theme comes rule ideas also. So I don't even have a programmer yet, but we're getting far with the rules and the storyline.
Do you obviously there's a plan to launch Deeproot at Texas Pinball Festival next year, and as you just mentioned, you don't know, Robert's pretty aggressive with timelines. Is your pinball machine in the mix to be a part of that initial reveal, or do you think yours would be a machine that would be available a bit later on?
I think at the moment it's in the mix, but I think, they're further along with John's games, of course, so I fully expect them to be at Texas.
Okay.
Not sure about mine.
Okay. Do you feel like, as I said before, in 1995, there was, 9 games that got released at Williams, which is just kind of insane, and it's kind of heavy competition. Obviously, it's great to work with Deeproot at the moment, but do you feel like it might become survival of the fittest? I'm sorry if this is like a horrible question, but do you feel like you have to prove yourself versus these other designers, or is it more of a collaborative effort together to just make as many cool pinball machines as you can?
At the moment, it feels very collaborative, because we're not at each other's throats trying to get the most sales and trying to keep secrets for our own games. So at this point, it's very collaborative and very friendly. Could it get that way? I suppose, but I don't know if it will. I'm just happy to be designing a game and getting a salary. So if the game's good, it'll be good.
That's awesome. And just there's another quote from you from I did some research. I listened to some of your previous podcasts because, well, hey, we've interviewed some designers, but they're mostly new designers, and as I said, you're responsible for nostalgic memories from my childhood, so it's important to me. So, you've said sometimes when you experiment too much, you can fail, but you also have said in other interviews that some games can be too intimidating, so you have to kind of make, like, you made the conscientious decision to make Pirates easier on purpose. You've been around since the 80s, designing pinball machines, so where are you at? Where's your mindset at in 2018? You said you've designed so many different games, Alien, Woe Nelly, they're so different, right? So are you making a pinball machine for the masses? How do you approach a game at the moment in 2018?
Wow, that's a good question. You know what? I approach a game as to what makes me happy. And, like a lot of songwriters and stuff, you don't do it for other people. You do it for yourself. And if you have the passion and the excitement and enthusiasm, that'll come through in the game, and there will be a lot of people that like that style of game. If I didn't enjoy working on a game, then it wouldn't be fun for anybody.
Well, what mindset are you in at the moment? Do you enjoy a game that is more like, Demolition Man and Whitewater, where you've got this, kind of fast flowing action, or do you like more of a Pirates of the Caribbean stop and start game?
I like both. The current game I'm working on, I believe it has a lot of flow, but it has some places for the ball to stop too. My main complaint about modern games is the playfield and the playfield art. If you look at the games from the 50s and 60s, you could look at every shot and you knew exactly what you got and you knew exactly what you had to shoot for. A lot of modern games, it's just not well labeled. The instructions just aren't clear to the player. And I understand there's a lot more rules and a lot more going on, but I'm trying to get some kind of a balance between the playfield directing the player and showing the player what shots are important without a lot of other junk on the playfield to distract from it. And that's a hard thing to do, and I've never been totally successful at it, but I keep trying.
Well, if you can also direct them with call-outs, so if they don't know what to shoot for, just tell them to shoot the blinking light, you wanker.
Yeah, there you go. Or like Whitewater, get the extra ball, you wiener.
You wiener. All right, Dennis. Unless there's any other cool stories you can tell us from your extensive pinball history, we just want to thank you for coming on the show. We know you're a busy man. We've been trying to get you on for a couple of weeks. We really genuinely look forward to see what you're going to come up with at Deeproot. And I hope they have.
I'm looking forward too.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing what you do and designing awesome games that, as I said, I played when I was a kid, and I'm still playing now. So, thank you, Dennis.
Well, thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye. So there we go, Ryan. That was Dennis Nordman. What did we learn?
What I learned is that people in pinball, besides Dennis Nordman, have an insane memory. Like when Dennis Nordman said, "I don't remember," that's normal. But in pinball conversations, it's not normal, because you ask someone a question about what they said to someone 30 years ago, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I said this," and the Greg Froese did. And I'm like, "What? Why do you remember that?" So it was refreshing for me for someone to have a normal memory. Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, he's actually a human.
Yes, Dennis Nordman is a human, confirmed.
So, look, I'll tell you one of the things that I don't know, I guess the whole Elvira thing for me was kind of off the radar. You know what I mean? Like, it was sort of announced, and then we haven't really sort of talked about it for a while. Sort of talking to him now, sort of really sort of understanding what he goes through in his thinking process when he comes to designing pinball. And then the fact that, there's a third Elvira machine coming out. I'm kind of excited about it now.
Well, yeah, because everyone... I mean, there's a rumor that Lyman Sheets would be working on it, and the reason why it kind of got shelved was, he's taking pretty long on Batman. So... I just got the memo right now, Marty. Can you imagine Elvira 3 with Lyman? Like, that is a huge game. Elvira on its own in the pinball world, and then to add Lyman Sheets to the mix people would just be throwing money at it. So I hope for his sake it comes out however he made it. I mean, we could have probed deeper, but out of respect for kind of Stern not really wanting to promote it now, since it's not on the line and not in the mix at the moment. We let him say what he wanted to say, and
and I guess that was probably also the cool thing about that interview as well, is that it was just kind of nice for somebody to just shoot the shit and just say what was on his mind, albeit there was gaps, but it was kind of cool for him to go, this is what I think. I kind of like that.
Yeah. As I said, he's, responsible for one of the first pinball machines I ever played. I guess the other three people that made pinball machines that I first played was Mark Ritchie, Steve Ritchie, and Pat Lawler. I don't know if we can ever get those guys on the show. Not that we've asked any of them, but that's one checked off the list, Marty.
Yeah, you do sort of carry a big one for him, though.
Why not? Yeah, hey, Demolition Man. It's a fucking good film. Okay, let's talk about it. Yes, it is. Let's talk. Everyone, by the way, Marty's a little bit intoxicated, so
that is not.
That's not
completely true.
Okay, Deadpool Marty.
Yes.
It's coming. They've teased the pinball machine this week with an array of information. I can't keep up with the stuff. Yeah,
I had to watch it about 5 times to really sink in all that information about Deadpool. Again, one of the worst kept secrets. We knew Deadpool was coming. Some of the art had been released as well. So here it is. And I'll tell you the funny thing about that little teaser video. When I first heard it, I went, oh my God, that is Jeff Teolis. They've managed to get Jeff Teolis to do the voiceover. And I think that's a testament to Jeff Teolis. So if you're listening, Stern, you need to get Jeff Teolis to start doing some of your call-outs. He is great when it comes to that stuff. But it wasn't actually him.
Yeah, it was someone that we've interviewed before on episode 46, I believe it was. It was Jerry Thompson.
Jerry Thompson.
Yeah, he did the audio for Ghostbusters, call-outs for Mustang. That little teaser, the more you watch it, the more you get different responses. The first time you watch it, you're like, is that it? And the second time you watch it, you're like, that looks so cheap. And then you're like, wait a second, it's a bash toy. So what do you want a bash toy? I mean, I don't think you're bashing it. You're bashing the drop targets underneath from that leaked picture.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, if you had like a Wolverine, cut off at the torso, moving left and right, that wouldn't be as cool. So I still think it still looks cheap with the springs.
I know it's really funny because everyone sort of said, first of all, we had the TIE Fighter on a spring. And this one, they're like, well, you want springs. We're giving you fucking springs. Here they are.
And, I mean, there's rumors that Stern had just taken the piss, and that's just like some little bobblehead that's available off the shelf, and they put it in there, and the real one would be a lot better. Guess what? I searched for a good 20 minutes online. Massive waste of time when I was looking after my kids. She was great. Well, she was doing something when it was one of those parenting moments where you just go on your phone. I could have just surfed Pinside. All right. I was looking for this Deadpool bobblehead. It doesn't exist, Marty. Okay, unless I'm really bad at Google, which I am. Mm-hmm. It doesn't exist. So that is either a custom molded Bash toy they got rid of, or that is it. Which is fine. I mean, I hate talking about things when it's teased because it's just a game, and I don't like to be a part of the game. Except for all the stuff we do before about rumors and stuff like that.
Except everything that's kept this podcast successful for the last 12 months is just all this rumor speculation. I'm not bothered by it, if I'm really honest. I mean, if you think about the leaked images, they did have a bobblehead on it. At least it looks better than the bog standard bobbleheads that you're going to get.
Yeah, and we can see, the only thing we can really see in the background is, in those leaked pictures we have that giant sword cascading down the right side, the katana. We can see one of them. You can see the handle of that in black and red, kind of laced katana, whatever.
I couldn't even see that. The background was so blurred, I couldn't see anything.
Stern marketing, always different. Just letting them know if they're listening. My 3-year-old loved it. My 3-year-old laughed. I literally had to watch it, or possibly, when people say 100 times and they're exaggerating. I'm pretty sure I've watched it close to 100 times because I don't think she's ever seen a bobblehead before, so she just thought it was hilarious.
So now that they have officially said that it's coming out, how long do you reckon it'll take until we actually start seeing sort of pictures and details of it?
Well, the Dead Flip stream is in 11 days, so okay. I'm guessing this week. This week they'll show. Who knows if they'll do the same thing they did with Iron Maiden? I believe it was a licensing restriction that didn't allow them to show all of the art at once. Apparently it worked out okay for them, so let's see if they try and follow that model and only show the models that are kind of going to be online, the Pro, then the LE, then the Premium, or if they'll just show kind of everything at once. I guess we'll be talking about it and giving we always give like reviews on games, like on reviews on the reveals before playing them, which means absolutely nothing. We're aware, okay? We're self-aware. We know that when we review stuff,
we know we are literally click whores. That's all we are. That's why we're doing this. Look, I'm really, really keen to see this for a number of reasons. This is the difficult follow-up to Iron Maiden. It really is. And I kind of said it before, but, everything's now going to be compared to Iron Maiden. And, it was kind of the talk of Pinburg whenever anybody would talk about Iron Maiden. And I think Nate Shivers said it on his last Coast to Coast Pinball podcast as well, is it too soon to say that this is the best Stern machine they've ever made, Iron Maiden?
Yes.
And is it possibly the best game ever made? Look, no. Yes, of course, it is too early, right? It's way too early, but time will tell. It's an absolute classic. So this next machine, Deadpool, is the difficult follow-up to Iron Maiden, and this is just me. Remember me, who doesn't like Goonies and doesn't think Goonies would make a good theme. I'm not really fussed about Deadpool as a theme either, so I'm kind of keen to see whether they've made an amazing playing machine with an okay theme.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I'm a hypocrite, but judging a pinball machine on a theme or on a teaser trailer is stupid. But I'm almost the opposite. I didn't really care. I'm like, Deadpool, yeah, it's a filler title. It's hard to follow up Iron Maiden, blah blah blah. But then this is how stupid the teaser was. After watching the teaser clip almost 100 times, I'm like, I hope they just go all out and just make like the dumbest, most self-aware pinball machine ever. right?
Yes.
Like, it has to talk to you about how crap you're playing and, oh my gosh, you should be doing this. I mean, a lot of pinball machines do that, but it just has to be the best at doing it. And it has to be insane humor. It has to be good music. And it's going to be. It's Jerry Thompson there. You got Zombie Yeti art. There's no reason why, yes, it's a difficult follow-up because Iron Maiden is good. Iron Maiden, I don't think was meant to be, like selling as much as it was. So I don't think this was meant to be a filler title.
Well, and you know what, we talked obviously with Dennis Nordman about humour in pinball, and if ever there was a license for Stern where they can go to town with humour, it's Deadpool, and not only just humour. One thing that's the Deadpool movies is where he breaks the fourth wall, where he actually talks to you as the viewer directly. So that's a really good opportunity for them to do that in this pinball as well.
Yeah, as I said, that happens in pinball machines anyway. Even in Iron Maiden, but this is the perfect opportunity to do it. And because it is not based off the movies, you won't have all of those crazy licensing restrictions, which is kind of, I won't say plagued pinball recently, but it
has a bit though.
Yeah, it's been a talking point, right? Bobbly Bobo, this and that. So, what do you know what I mean?
Which let's not forget was actually your ringtone for some time.
What are you talking about? It's still my ringtone.
I'm not gonna ring you to find out because that'll cost me a fortune.
Yeah,
I am still in America for those.
Hi, by the way. How's the weather over there in California?
Look, honestly, San Francisco has just been amazing weather. Just amazing. I could move here. I could literally move here.
Marty, you've said that about every city you've been to. Chicago is the best, Ryan. Oh my gosh, Toronto, Ryan. Toronto is amazing.
I'm pretty sure I never said that about Toronto.
Oh, okay. Jeff Teolis, hashtag Jeff Teolis. Let's move along, Marty, because I've edited the last 2 episodes in a row. This is my third.
I know, this
is my third and last. So this doesn't require the most editing. The Dennis Norman interview, us talking shit for how long, and all the other crap I have to edit in. I'm going to edit in the Deadpool after every time we say Deadpool. Okay. Deadpool. Or I'll have that tune playing in the background.
Yep.
It'll be like Pinheads, just full production quality. And then we just won't release. No. Next news article we want to talk about is Gaza. Gaza at Pinfest.
The big G-bomb.
The G-Fest. They should just rename it Gaza Fest.
Gaza Fest.
Gary Stern, who, I mean, he rocks up to a lot of shows in the US, but he doesn't often come to Australia. Pinfest is a big pinball gathering. It's being held somewhere else for the first time because it was a very small venue, and it's in Newcastle. I have no idea what the dates are. I will link it in the show notes, but Gaz is coming along and he's doing a talk. Apparently he's flying in, doing the talk, and flying out. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But, he has done that before. I know he has come to Australia a couple of times, so it'll be good to see him.
Yeah. Or he can just come on the podcast and reach far more people and not have to go through customs and all that kind of stuff.
The invitation is open. Gary, come on our podcast.
If we ever get him on the podcast, Marty, I am making him say that whatever is on the line is his favorite game. Like I'm going to try and I'm going to get him during a transitional period where he won't know what to say. It'll be like there'll be 2 or 3 things on the line and he won't know what to say. And I will ask him what does the bull do, and he would just say the bull is wild.
Yep.
They're the 2 things. If we ever get on the show, I'm getting to say both those things.
Yeah. It'll be Gary Bingo.
We'll hand or a drink. Oh fuck! A drinking contest of where whenever we get to say something big, everyone has to drink, and we'll just get everyone blind. Oh shit! I'm leaving that in. I'm not editing that out. Okay. Pinball.
What else have we got?
Pinball. Have this for clickbait, Marty. Pinball Hall of Fame is closing down, Marty. Clickbait. React to it.
That's just the worst clickbait ever.
It wasn't. I fucking clicked on it.
Of course I fucking clicked on it as well, and I felt dirty for clicking on it because the first thing you read is, and we're reopening at another location, you dirty bastard.
So, Pinball Hall of Fame. Oh, Marty, I was thinking about this. Would there be another location in the world that more pinball is played at annually than the Pinball Hall of Fame in Las Vegas?
Well, I think there would be with more working machines, yes.
No, I just mean just people playing games. Which single venue has the most games played on it annually? It'd have to be Pinball Hall of Fame.
It would have to be Pinball Hall of Fame, no doubt.
I went there on at 10 in the morning on like a Tuesday. I can't remember when. It was like there shouldn't have been anyone there, and it was.
I went there 3 times, and it was packed each time.
So they want a bigger venue. I'm not sure why they need bigger because there's enough machines there. But they want to be close.
It's a better location.
Yeah,
it's going to be on the Strip now. So
I mean, the Strip is huge. You know that, Marty. I know that after being there. I mean, you could take 45 minutes walking from one end to the other, or maybe longer. I just pulled that figure out of my ass.
It's actually about an hour.
Okay. But the good thing is that it's right next to Harley Davidson, and it's right next to the Las Vegas sign. I had a look on Google Maps. It's a huge plot of land. There's nothing on there, and he told the whole story. I love how much detail he went into about how he was bidding on the auction and thought he was going to get outbid, but he bought it for $4.6 million, which is quite a lot. But it's a massive plot of land. But the old venue's been valued at 2.7, so they have to get a bridging loan. They have all this money in the bank.
And they're going to stop being how do I say this? They're going to stop donations for some time to be able to fund the new location and the new build.
They're going to stop giving donations, not donations. Yes, which is fine. I mean, you got to make money to spend money to make money.
Yes.
So he's going to be appearing at Chicago Pinball Expo. And going to be talking. Have we done the Patreon yet, Marty? So I can get a free flight over there. No, is that happening? No. Okay.
Write into us and just give us your credit card details, and that'll pay for the flight.
I'm emailing Rob Burke, and I'll do a talk about my 3 painful weeks of editing, and that'll be a good show.
Just non-stop whinging about this editing. I do it every week.
Yes, but you suck. Okay. That's all. I don't really have anything to say. I mean, I'll link the thread. I think it's just very interesting that this is, as I said, it's the most popular pinball place in the world, I believe. It's just pulling that out of my ass. But
yeah, I would say
it'll be even more. How will he use the space, and will he make sure that pinball is shed in a good light to make all the machines working more? Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah. There's a lot of money in the bank, Marty. There's a lot of money in the bank. It's how much? $3.6 million in the bank. Maybe pinball is just impossible to get every single machine working because it's pinball and shit breaks.
Yeah, look, there's been many discussions about Pinball Hall of Fame, and it's a challenge because it is, I guess, a not-for-profit, and everything goes to charity, and so therefore it's sort of done on a very sort of shoestring budget. So that's probably why.
Alice Cooper, Marty, did you watch the amazing stream that was held by Dead Flip?
Oh my God, I absolutely did not see any of it.
Because you were too busy living your life?
Because I've got a life here, and also I've run out of data. So unless I'm walking past Macy's and getting their free Wi-Fi, I've got no chance of seeing many things.
So when you get free Wi-Fi, Marty, you just sit there and post Assassin's Creed selfies. Is that what you do, Marty? What? Okay, this is off topic, and I'm sure no one cares. But what data plan did you get when you went over? Did you buy a SIM for there, or did you get roaming?
No, I actually, because I'm on a premium plan, I actually get a certain amount of data allocated, and it's all gone.
As part of your plan, you get international data.
Yep, 5 gig.
Wow. You must be on a very good plan, because if you try and buy 5 gig international roaming in Australia, that's like over $100 or something.
Yeah, but remember, I'm on a premium plan because I use that for streaming.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I tune into the stream. I was working, so I was just kind of on the background. It starts super late. I checked 3 times, it wasn't available, and then Stacey messaged me, said, the stream's on. They go to plunge a ball, hey, check it out, we got this new skill shot thingamajiggy, black screen of death. It's the fails.
The machine or the stream?
The machine just conked out. There was some bug in the code. Like, oh yeah, we just added this code like literally 5 minutes ago. We'll try again. Black screen of death. Okay, let's swap out the SD card or whatever it is and let's try again. And then I was working, so I wasn't really paying attention. I'm like, okay, now I'll give it 5 minutes. I watched Bo and Kieran's brick shots for about 3 minutes. I felt like it was 3 minutes. It could have been like 20 seconds, but I'm like, I know Bo and Kieran's is tired, but why can't he find the shots? Okay, and then I look away and I do some more work, and then I look back, and then the flipper dies. I'm like, all right, I'll go do some work, and I look back, they fix the flipper dies again. And then so 3 times the flipper died, and I was like, holy shit. And it was literally just a flipper screw. It was nothing. And it says pinball, I understand it, but it was just like it was a shit showing of the pinball machine, and it deserved more after, we've been talking about Alice Cooper, like, hey, this is going to be the big reveal, the second coming, Luckily, and I didn't watch any more, and apparently after that it was completely fine, but they didn't save the video. I couldn't go back and watch it. I tuned out after that. Carl D'Angelo was streaming it at Ace Gogi, is that what it's called?
Ace Gogi, yes.
Ace Gogi. Hey, did you go there, Marty? You're around there somewhere.
No, I was nowhere near Los Angeles. That's actually nowhere near San Francisco.
Okay, aren't they? So, which one's the one that's really closest?
California.
Okay. Carl D'Angelo, what a boss. The stream looked amazing. The machine was fine. And I'm pretty sure they left it up there. So I'll link just one stream, I guess, because the other one isn't up. It still looks quite hard to get going, Marty. They were playing it was the launch party competition, and it was, how like on some games that are set up in tournament play with like, tight tilts and stuff like that, like you just, like whoever starts multi-ball, like it's going to be on the last ball, they win. For Alice Cooper, it was whoever started a mode. So as we've discussed before, starting a mode is left orbit, right orbit, or any combination of those 4 shots, and you're in a mode. So
how do you know that?
Because I played it when...
No, I know, but it's one of those things where it doesn't really spell it out that easily to you.
Well, we've discussed that there's a little map there.
No, I know, but I also think, and I don't know whether you're getting to this point, but I also think that's probably a lot to start a mode.
That was my complaint, my only takeaway from initially playing it, and it still looks the same, but as I said, I haven't really watched a lot of the stream. I saw something about like some secret passage. It would be cool if you can somehow create a shortcut or something to get there. I don't know. As I said, I'm not complaining about it because there's 500 games that, probably 90% of them are going to go to collectors, hardly any of them will be on site. But I mean, Bo and Kieran's was on our show saying that Simpsons is hard because, to start a mode, you have to get the ball up into the top the house through the garage and then hit a shot. But when you think about it, that's what, 1 shot to open the garage, 2 to get it up there, and then 1 shot to the TV. Of course, if you miss that, you have to do it all again. But this is harder than that. This is 4 pretty hard shots, and I don't know. You can't. This is the thing that you can't really make it like easier. We talked about it with Houdini and stuff, and they ended up doing it. Make the first magician act easy. How do you make the first monster easy? Because that means you'd have to like all the monsters are different with different scoring. I think you can't just have like who bought the dog every single time. People will get sick of that.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I maybe have some blind faith here that Bowen will work on this. He actually had Pinberg in the middle of all of this as well. And the reason why I make that as a point is that, I don't know if I mentioned this before, I did have a game of doubles with Crystal Kemnick. Hi, Crystal. Love you. And there was actually a sign on Alice Cooper at Pinberg that said, play a single-player game only. And we sort of looked at each other and went, we're going to, throw caution to the wind. We're going to be rebels and we're going to do a 2-player game, right?
Yeah.
And as we did, Bowen came up to me and said, oh, look, now, by the way, with the second player, some of the monsters, the animation's not showing. That's why we sort of recommend playing 1 player. But hopefully if I get time later tonight, I'm going to fix that.
Okay.
And what you got to understand is that this is in the middle of freaking Pinberg. Bowen Karen says, look, hopefully I'll get to it later tonight. It's like, dude, there's only so many hours in the day. And you've also got to get some sleep. So, you can't be coding and being one of the tournament directors of Pinberg at the same time. So my point is I'm sort of giving him a bit of a leave pass saying he'll get to it. That kind of stuff, now that, it's out there and people will start giving feedback, he'd be the kind of person that would take that on board and make changes. That's my take on it.
I mean, the thing is, he can change the software only, so it's still going to be a tighter shooter than normal. And the argument out there is, that we're all spoilt with how easy certain games are to shoot. Steve Ritchie games and even like a Pat Lawler game or something. So it's not abnormal. It's just that everyone is used to a certain thing. And then I thought about that, and I thought, well, how far back do you have to go to get like tight pinball machines? Like the whole 90s, like they're not really like. What's the hardest 90s game? There is none, right? On top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I can't think really.
I'm just thinking about Bally William games because I haven't played all the other.
Yeah, no, of course. No, nothing. They're all relatively wide open, I guess.
And I mean that none of them were designed for the home market. But I mean, even I don't know. It's uncharted territory, so I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's very different, and I don't know. I mean, there are brutal games, but like Iron Maiden is, you can shoot that easily. You can hit the orbits, like the widest orbits in the world, but it's still hard. It's just hard in a different. It's just hard in a drainy way, where this is hard in a miss your shot kind of way.
Brick your shots way, yeah. But look, as I said, after I think it was probably the third or fourth game on Alice Cooper, I started finding the shots. They're just not in the areas where you are used to.
I'm just so slow with that. I'm the slowest person ever with finding my shots. It'll take me 50 games to find my shots. So I have to have the game in my house to.
Well, and there you go. Right? It's pitched at the home market, so people will find a way.
Apparently, Def Leppard is going back, so I guess we'll see the third unveiling of the product.
Well, and it's kind of what we were saying about Houdini. Houdini is very similar in that it's got these really tight shots, not only tight shots, but also shots that are in locations that you're not used to. It took me, 6-7 games to really start finding those shots consistently, and that makes for a good home game, I reckon.
Does it take you that long to find the shots in Iron Maiden, even though that's a completely different layout as well?
Well, to a degree, I still can't find that right ramp as much as I try. And the left ramp through the pops, that's always tricky as well. You've
been 3 weeks without playing Iron Maiden. The ramps aren't hard. The hardest shot for me is that left spinner, and it's risky as well. It's a dumb shot because yes, you can activate your revive. Yes, you can get double points on the spinner during whatever that mode is. I just drain every single time. It's either way too early or way too late. Let's move on to Godzilla, Marty. Did you see what Charlie Emery had to say about the Godzilla license?
Yes, I did. And I mean, you can summarize, but effectively what he was saying was that, they desperately wanted that particular Godzilla license. What is it? Toho or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Because that particular one is his wheelhouse. That's what he really likes, that particular one. And also, it's not the big blockbuster version of the license. So it seemed really unusual that Stern would go for this lesser Godzilla license rather than the big one, which is what they normally do. So he was kind of saying it was kind of a bit out of character for them to go for this license.
Yeah. So there's a couple of groups of thought. So one is that Stern maybe also got the license for the other Godzilla, the one that apparently there's a movie coming for next year, which is going to include other monsters. I don't know. I'm not sure if they. I mean, there's so many blockbuster movies at the moment, but there's also what's that monster movie with the people fighting them in the big robot suits? You've seen it, haven't you, Marty?
Pacific Rim?
Yes, Pacific Rim job. Number one was good. Number two, average-ish. I don't know. It's just a weird climate for another Godzilla, / monster movie. But everyone knows what Godzilla is, right? Everyone knows what Godzilla is. Everyone is saying that maybe Stern got that, and then they thought, caught wind that Stern was talking to Toho and said, well, hey, we can't let them do a Godzilla at the same time because it's a different license holder. There could be two Godzilla pinball machines.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's get the other one, just because. Hey, if Charlie's going to sell 500 of them at was it $6,000 a pop or something? That's $3 million of revenue. That's not coming towards our way. Let's spend X amount of money to not let them have that. Maybe we're just guessing, right?
We actually have no idea. And you know what? It's that whole. We had a bit of a discussion about it last week. That whole, that's just business. Well, I think Charlie mentioned that he spoke to Stern as well, and they sort of said, well, we're also fans of Godzilla as well. You don't actually have the monopoly on being a fan of Godzilla, right?
Yeah. You could kind of hear Charlie getting rolled up when he said, I bet I know more about it than you, because he's like fully obsessed with it. Like,
yeah,
I'm not obsessed with anything in my life as much as it sounds like Charlie Emery's obsessed with that kind of version of Godzilla. So, but he offered to do free consulting for Stern. I don't know. It's weird because he's kind of firing shots at them. They're not publicly firing anything back, but obviously there's actions being done in the background. There's a thread on Pinside, is Stern evil, and there's a lot of discussion going back and forth about it, and people are split. So I'm not sure what's going to come of it, but obviously there's negative. What's the opposite of goodwill, Marty? Bad will, is that a thing? Bad will, yeah. There's a lot of bad will going towards Stern at the moment. Obviously, a lot of people are saying, well, is in the group of that's just business, but there's also a lot of people that, got their pitchforks out. So,
well, and as I said last week, I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't think that there is this black and white. They're either good or evil, or it's business, and you've robbed somebody off their livelihood. You haven't. Spooky have got plenty of other licenses that they'll be able to do great machines for as well. It's it's not the be all and end all. Yes, I understand that there's a personal connection because he loves Godzilla that much, but
you know what we should have asked Dennis Nordman? Was Elvira 3 meant to be done at Spooky? Because Charlie's a massive Elvira fan as well, and he hinted we passed on a massive pinball license to Stern before because he thought they would be better off doing it. That would probably be Elvira 3, right? I doubt it would be like Aerosmith or, Iron Maiden or something, right? It would be Elvira.
Well, let's just put it out there right now as fact. It was definitely Elvira that got passed on to Stern. Let's just start it.
Okay, done. Oh, gosh.
I am never going to be invited back to Stern.
I know. Zach Sharp gave you a personal tour and everything. Did we talk? No, that was after last week. How was the tour, Marty?
It's going to be this week in pinball.
Okay. All right, Slam Top 100. I destroyed you again, Marty. America's Most Haunted is easily the better game than Game of Thrones.
What was the actual result?
I don't know. Just bloodbath again. Okay. This one surprised me. I thought it was going to be closer. I was under the impression that people hated Game of Thrones as much as Ghostbusters. That is not the case. People really do hate...
That is absolutely not the case.
Oh my gosh. People love Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Evident by two things. One, the result of this, because I felt like I comprehensively listed all the bad things about Game of Thrones. Yes, it shoots amazing. Okay, let's just ignore that. But I guess I didn't mention enough. I guess people don't really care about America's Most Haunted. And it's not even in the top 100 anymore, Marty. It's like 101 or something.
Wow, okay. So just so you know, Game of Thrones got 75% of the votes. And this is kind of what I said about Game of Thrones, and I'll say it again. When it first came out, it got, I reckon, since I've been back in pinball, of all the reveals, it's had the worst reception when it comes to artwork.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Hands down.
Okay. Star Wars, maybe in the same category?
Yeah, okay, maybe closer. But over time, it doesn't matter.
Yes, you can say that about anything, though.
No, you can't say that about Star Wars. It's still.
I can say about this medieval madness, Marty. Amazing artwork. After all that time, though, it doesn't matter. You can say it for good and bad, right?
No, I understand that, but that's why I'm telling you that's why I got 75% of the vote, because people, the only really thing that you've got that's terrible about Game of Thrones is terrible artwork and the flashing lights. Well, people sort of get over that stuff. And
weird rules as well, but amazing rules in the sense that he didn't know no one knows how the story is going to end, because George, what's his name? Yeah, George Martin or something?
Martin,
yeah. I think I was getting confused with the Tolkien guy for some reason.
Sure.
Yep, really smart. I am. So, isn't it amazing that he didn't know the end, and he was able to still formulate the game in a way that It's open to anything. You choose a house and you battle the other houses.
It's got nothing to do with any of the storylines. It's effectively just houses battling each other.
Yeah, I mean, there's shitty clips playing when stuff happens, but it's... Yeah. I mean, if they made modes, it would be like Walking Dead, where it's just like, hey, this is the first 2 seasons of a 8-season show. Is it time for Slam the Top 100?
Well, for this week, yes, it is. Let's do it.
It's time to Slam the Top 100.
Please generate a number from 0 to 100.
Coming right up. 97.
Oh, you fucker.
Yes! What's 97? Who done it?
Have you done that?
No.
We have, surely.
I don't remember it. I actually quite like Who Done It.
Okay, sure. Do you want that one then?
No, it's yours.
you fucking bitch. Please generate a number from 0 to 100.
All right. 67.
Taxi.
We did that with Jeff Teolis, but not our own show.
Yeah, keep going.
Please generate a number from 0 to 100.
Sure. 84.
Earthshaker. Done.
Earthshaker. Okay. Let's talk about Earthshaker. A fine Pat Lawler game. One of his disaster themes. I really like the layout on this. It's got a bit of a quirkiness to it, typical Pat Lawler, vein. Some really interesting shots, interesting rules. I love. It's got the shaker. I think it was one of the first games that really had the shaker motor in it, wasn't it? It's got great sound, great flow for a Pat Lawler game as well. It's a great game. There you go, Earthshaker.
Fuck, this is going to be the biggest low effort Slam Top 100 ever. Who done it? One of only, was it 9 pinball machines released by Bally Williams in 1995, and clearly their best. AFM was in the same year. Push that to the side. Who done it? A murder mystery. Okay, who did it? Was it Butler? Was it Victoria? Was it Bruno? Was it Trixie? Or was it Tony? Who the fuck knows? Because none of the clues make sense. You got the giant ramp in the middle. We were talking about before about tight shots. This is the untightest shot in pinball. Okay, a giant fucking 5-inch shot in the middle of the playfield that you cannot miss. Will it go to the left? Will it go to the right? Will it go to the center? Amazing. You got awesome Dwight Sullivan rules, which allow you to the pop bump. The reels give you awards, Marty. And now this rule was transported into Ghostbusters, and it was so good that it was also in Game of Thrones as well, Marty. Let's just reuse it over and over again. Who done it? Murder mystery. When you find the guy and he's like, it's great dots. It's Murder She Wrote for pinball machines. Who done it? Go for it, Marty. Tell me all the horrible things about Who done it, Marty.
No.
The game that you just said you love.
Who done it's a better game.
Really?
Yep.
Give it to me.
No, it actually just is. Earthshaker is a terrible game.
I've never played Earthshaker, so I don't even know what to say bad about it.
I have. It's actually not a bad game. I do actually really like Who Done It. I don't know. The thing I guess about these two games is, Earthshaker comes from that era where it was a little bit tougher, and therefore it made you a better player as a result. Not necessarily ball saves and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like it was pretty brutal. The problem I've got with Who Done It is I think it's got very unbalanced scoring. It makes a terrible comp game unless you put it on the settings, which makes it really boring because everybody sees the same thing. I don't know. I don't like the layout really of Who Done It all that much.
Okay.
The art's not great either. It's actually terrible art, but I don't mind playing it. That's what I'm saying. But I'm really, really indifferent towards it.
Earthshaker, as I said, I haven't played it before, but what I will say is Pat Lawler. I think this is Pat Lawler's first game. He's got the shot to that shot up the middle, right? Not the middle. Sorry, the middle flipper. he realized after that game that all the upper flipper shots need to be on the right and not the left, because Whirlwind, No Good Gophers, Addams Family, Dialed In, it's probably about 5 other games, have that middle flipper on the right instead of the left. So Earthshaker, that was a mistake. That's all.
Okay. Right,
you might have the better GIF though, because your GIF will be an earthquake. I'm sure there'll be something funny I can do with an earthquake. My GIF will be how can you make murder funny? I don't know. I've got to figure something out. Oh, Bruno. I'll do Bruno from. No, I can't do that. Do you remember that gay character that Sacha Baron Cohen?
Bruno? Yeah.
Yes. I forgot they did a movie. I thought it was just off his show. Okay.
No, they did a movie.
This week in pinball, I'm going first, motherfucker, because you're going to have another hour. I saw, Marty, that Jeff from the Pinballs Played podcast was trying to say that we cheated in the TTI and that he should win by default. Too bad. Marty's already donated money. You can't steal from our charity.
How did he say that we cheated?
Because David Peck, otherwise known as Rob Peck from Australia. You haven't listened to the Slam Tour podcast, have you?
Not yet.
Bruce is like, I had dinner with Roto Dave. It was really nice. And his name's Roto Dave. Roto Dave, right? And like, who did Marty have on his team? It was Rob Peck from Australia.
So I still don't understand why people are calling into question my victory at the TTI.
Sorry, I just had to get that in there, that story, because it really made me laugh. Apparently he was wearing headphones for like 2 minutes or something, and Jeff is so desperate to get a win because his Pinburg medal for getting a 12 in the round wasn't enough, so he's trying to disqualify us. How dare he?
How dare you?
I played in the 3 Strikes tournament this week at Pixel Alley. I'm not going to go into too much details about that, but I came third, which I was pretty pleased with. Mr. McMinn, who's never ever won a competition before, just destroyed everyone and won. And I left early after I got knocked out by him because of the strike system. It might have taken 3 more rounds to see. But now I kind of wish I was there because no one has any footage of him winning, and apparently he was pretty ecstatic. I will say thank you to Zax because they fixed their Simpsons Pinball Party. So that Simpsons now has 1, a slight ball save, 2, locks are on the default settings, and 3, the garage door works, Marty. So hooray for Zax and hooray for Simpsons Pinball Party. I know you still don't like it. Guys. Yes. I went over to Anthony Whitby's house on Friday and I played Guardians of the Galaxy. And I really like that pinball machine, Marty.
You actually really like it?
I do. Unpopular opinion, Marty, I like plastic ramps way, way more than metal ramps. It's something about the smoothness of the ball.
They are faster.
Yeah. I know after like a couple hundred games they get all ghosty and whatever you call it. Yeah, but I don't know. I like that game. It's funny, I was playing pretty crap, and then I messaged PJ, Mr. Paul Jones, the number 1 player in Australia, and said, what's the strategy? And he wrote a little paragraph, and I literally did that, and every single time, I had like 3 games after that, and I got Grand Champ, and then I got like, high score number 1, and then Grand Champ again. So I have my strategy now for Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, I will never be able to execute that in the competition, but yeah, there is a lot of strategy because certain modes are easy to complete and you get the bigger fat bonus and you get that bonus carried on, and it's not all about just starting multi-ball, and yeah, modes can be huge, Marty. Okay. Did you know, Marty, on Guardians of the Galaxy that you know how when you finish it then there's like mode number 2?
No.
Okay, so say you're playing Yakka Arrow and you finish level 1, it then goes to level 2 and you can play that.
How much different is level 2 to level 1? Is it the same shots just worth more?
Completely different.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's a level 3. I think it might just be 2 levels, and I think the second one is just like a big payoff maybe of certain shots. I don't know. But there's this rule which I thought is too good to be true. You can instead of playing that mode, say Yakka Arrow 2, you can then choose another mode, say like Pod Chase 1. Yakka Arrow 2 is still running in the background. So if you like, you can really blow up this game because you can have like all these modes running at the same time and be getting this massive payoff. As soon as you lose your ball, everything's over, kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
So
I haven't played I haven't played Guardians for so long, and certainly not with any recent code.
Yeah, and when you do, and when I do, it's at Pixel Alley with like the grippiest weird rubbers. That game just kind of it's hard to play that game, but I finished 4 modes, going to Cherry Bomb multi-ball, and then we talk about Groot multi-ball getting nerfed. When you finish the mode, that shot is like 5x or whatever for jackpot. So that's when Groot starts to pay off, and I don't know. I wouldn't say no to getting a Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Well,
maybe I should get rid of my Metallica. Horrible game. What else? Okay, Marty, I am running a competition, a tournament, this week on Wednesday. Are you back for that? I think I've asked you this already.
I'm back by... You know what? When I get back into Melbourne 9:30 in the morning. I've then got to drive home, get changed, and then drive an hour and a half for a 2-day conference.
Oh, God, Marty. So
it's the worst.
I guess you don't need your Iron Maiden back then.
Not till the weekend. So, no, I will be missing that, sadly.
Okay. It's. I hope everyone that has clicked like on Facebook isn't actually coming, because there's over 120 people that have kind of Facebook RSVP'd, which, you never know how many people are going to come, but apparently only like 30 people or so can fit upstairs, Marty. Is that what you said when you were running comps there?
Yeah, that's what I reckon.
Oh gosh, I don't know what's going to happen, but they're promoting the shit out of it. $200 bar tab for the person who wins. So it's
nice.
Yep, it's a new style of format. And Marty, I hate explaining formats because I put myself to sleep. So Marty, shall we get someone else on to explain the new format, Marty?
Yes, please do.
Listen up, bitches. This is Mrs. Penn, and I'm here to talk to you today about Riza's Righteous Rusak Rally. He's having a tournament, people. The format's a little different. He doesn't like listening to himself talk about tournament rules, so he called in the big guns. I'm here to talk to you about how it's going to go down. Listen up. This tournament is called Aussie Style / Kiefer Style 5 Strikes Tournament. Kiefer Sutherland, my favorite Australian. Just kidding. He's from Canada. Anyways, in a 5 strikes tournament, you get 5 strikes. When you get 5 strikes, you're out. It's very similar to a 3 strikes tournament, actually, except instead of just 3 strikes, you get 5. What's the benefit of this, you ask? 2 more strikes, motherfuckers. Dr. Penn. Oh my God, stop laughing. You're shaking the freaking bed. You're shaking the house. You're going to be editing this shit. Okay. So, 5 strikes. The benefit of a 5 strikes tournament, according to Orion C., is that not only you get 2 more strikes, but the tournament comes to a head at a quicker pace, and you allegedly last longer. He sent some data to some mathematician who did some census and shit, and basically, when push comes to shove, the guy said that you might last a little bit longer if you don't suck. If you win in your group, you get 0 strikes. That's the goal, people. Don't get no strikes, okay? If you lose in your group, gosh, I've got bad news. Number 1, you need to get practicing on pinball because you suck right now. Number 2, not only do you get 1 strike, but you get 2 strikes. You get 2 strikes, people, okay? So, in theory, you could still be out after 3 rounds, but, that math dude basically told us that 55 out of 60 people should make it to round 5. I'll believe it when I see it, but y'all are going to have to let me know how things go, because you know how I feel about a 3 strikes tournament. I think they suck. Okay, people, if in the end you are left with a 3-player group, here's how the strike system works. The winner still gets no strikes. Again, you want to try to win. You don't want strikes. This isn't bowling, okay? Strikes are not good. If you win, you get 0 strikes. If you come in second, you get 1 strike. If you shit the bed and you come in last, you still get 2 strikes. If in the end there is a 2-player group, the winner of the 2 gets 0 strikes. The loser of the 2 gets 2 strikes. Don't want to lose. The benefits of a 5-strike tournament as opposed to a 3-strike tournament, from what I understand, are that if it is a group like myself and Dr. Pin, and you are me, and you kind of stink, you are not going to be waiting around for 7 hours for Dr. Pin to finish his rounds, okay? You're going to be able to get out of there faster and move on with your life. So, go play, do some good shit. Rise's Righteous Rusak Rally can now begin. Booyah!
It just makes so much sense now that she's explained it.
She actually fucked it up a little bit.
It makes no sense.
Absolutely nothing to do with the fact that there's 3 strikes versus 5. It's just the scoring. So instead of 0-0-1-1, which is what all the other tournaments do for 4-player groups, it's 0-1-1-2 or 0-1-2 for 3 players and 0-2 for 2 players. So because of that, like these simulations that I run, it seems to let everyone stay in longer, and then there's 2 bloodbath rounds that everyone pretty much drops out, and there's a final 4. So hopefully that is a good tournament structure for people that are new to pinball, and it's easy to run, right? 3 strikes are super easy to run versus for frenzy or match play or anything like that. So
yep, certainly.
Let's see how we go. I'll report back on that next week. Just one last thing, Marty, before I let you do a little bit.
Sure.
I wanted to make this a segment, but we've already gone for a freaking hour, so I'll ask people to email in. I was playing Ghostbusters, I couldn't be bothered playing like 2 or 3 player games on Guardians of the Galaxy, so when Anthony and Nima were playing, I was playing Ghostbusters. I still hate that game. But I was just thinking about how bad the Scaleri drop targets are, because they don't really do anything except annoy the shit out of you. Yes, and yes, the character's annoying, blah, blah, blah. I was thinking, in Cactus Canyon, they're really fun, because the post comes up and it's like, 3, 2, 1, draw, yes. Bang.
I played it at Pinburg. It's fun having those targets.
Yes, okay. And then let's go to, say, the Medieval Madness Trolls. They were kind of cool, sure, innovative. And then the Hobbit Trolls, which kind of like get in your way, and there's double as many. So I want people to email in, and maybe we can have a little segment. Things that worked on the pinball machine, someone tried to replicate it in some form, okay? Maybe the same mech or the same software rule, and it wasn't as good as it was in the original. So there's 2 examples, the Scaleri Brothers versus the Cactus Canyon Drops, the Hobbit Trolls versus Medieval Madness Trolls. Email in head2headpinball@gmail.com and let us know any other examples you can think of.
Awesome.
How was your week, Marty?
Look, I've had an amazing week. So after Pinburg, literally got on the plane the next morning. And as soon as I got to the airport in Chicago, hired a car and drove straight to Stern Pinball for a factory tour with the Honourable Zach Sharp. Okay. What do you want to know?
How's Deadpool look? I mean, it should have been on. It should have been on the line, so you would have seen it, right?
Here's what's good and really annoying about Zach Sharp. You ready?
He's really professional.
What's really good is that he's professional, and what's really annoying is that he's professional.
Okay.
So
you know nothing.
So no, I learned nothing. Well, not about anything sort of secret. Like and because people knew that I was going to this tour, I had so many people messaging me going, "Come on, you can tell me. I won't tell anyone." It's like, really, honestly, that's how those pictures of Deadpool got leaked, right?
So you have seen it, Marty. So you have seen it.
No, I haven't. But what I got to see was, I don't know how to put this, but I'll see if I can. So just over a year ago, I did the factory tour of Jersey Jack. Mm-hmm. And now I've done the Stern factory tour. Mm-hmm. And it's night and day. I mean, and it really shows the difference between a company that has, one machine on the line and a smaller line, and does it in relatively small batches, versus a company that is a freaking machine that has so many workers and so many different elements along the line, and can produce so many machines per day. It was just phenomenal. And, I know that, in recent times people have sort of talked about, quality control and all that kind of stuff. There is at every step along the way all this quality control that happens. So take that as you will. It was really interesting to see it all in action. And then there is this door that's got a number keypad on it, and the windows next to this door are all covered up with brown paper, so you can't see it. Mm-hmm. And basically he said, well, that's where all the interesting stuff is. Can't let you in there. Yep.
Same thing. Yeah.
Pretty much the same tour that everyone gets. So, but it was just with Zach, and what was actually really quite good was that it wasn't all scripted. He went off script. We had chats about Pinberg and about some his favorite machines and what he likes and what he doesn't like and all that kind of stuff. So it was a fantastic tour. So
we should get him on the show. Sounds like an interesting go.
Well, we have. The other thing that happened in this week was on Wednesday night, I went to Logan Arcade in Chicago. Now, I've heard all about Logan Arcade for so long. And Jimmy Nails, good friend of the show, Jimmy Nails, did a flip frenzy at Logan Arcade. So this was the first time I got to see Logan Arcade, obviously, but it was the first time I actually got to see Jimmy and Barb's software in action. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It just does everything for you, and you know exactly where you need to be. And
that's really cool, but can we use it? No, we can't use it.
Not just yet.
But they said that a year ago, okay?
No, I know. But it actually went without a hitch. They didn't actually have to do any corrections this time. So I think that also relies on good people as well.
Americans are smarter than drunk Aussies? Is that what you're saying, Marty?
Possibly. But yeah, software, and it manages the queue so efficiently that the wait in between games was no more than 2 minutes, like 2, maybe 3 minutes at that. And it was a queue of 8 to 9 people. So it was phenomenal. Great collection of machines. Really good to catch up with Crystal Gemnick. I love her. Jack Danger was there. He was streaming.
Does she work there?
Yeah, I think she's a tech there as well.
Okay, yep.
So got to catch up with Jack as well. Some other people from Pinberg. It was a great night. I didn't do so well. So I had 11 wins, I think 6 losses. So I didn't end up anywhere near the top. Mm-hmm. And a person called Jane. She came first. I think she had like 17 wins and maybe 4 losses. Absolute powerhouse. So well done, Jane.
How's this for a rule tweak on Flip Frenzy, Marty? Because something needs to be done because of all that. I mean, Americans are sitting there playing it properly, but, the Aussies have been, play it every week or every month, whatever it is. They've figured out the kind of the flaws in the system. Before it possibly gets nerfed, right? What do you think about if you lose a game, you get like half a point taken off? So that forfeiting a game or agreeing to a one-ball game doesn't really have as much benefits as it has had before.
Yeah, okay. So I guess what you're trying to do is reward people for not giving up so easily.
Yeah, punish them for losing, basically. Yeah. Because someone might win with a lot less, the most wins, but 5 more losses than the next person. But if those losses count for half a point taken off, then it might slide them down a couple of places. Yeah, again, it comes back to the fact that we're now having to do these rules because people can't play this game in the spirit that it was intended. Yeah, but that you have better rules, and then it's fine, right? Yeah. I guess that's a better resolution than nerfing the Whopper points for these tournaments because, we want to get more people into them. At the end of the day, that Flip Frenzy at Logan Arcade was so much fun, and it was so loud,
Everybody had a great time. Jimmy put on an amazing tournament. You know,
I watched a bit of the stream. I was looking at the chat, and then people were kind of blown away by the amount of games played. And that's what me and you've been kind of saying this whole time. Like, yes, this is what pinball can be like if you don't have to wait around for 45 minutes in between rounds and this and that. It is the most fun format. And I saw the Facebook page and I was like, we have to do this more and this and that. So I really hope that Flip Frenzy can survive by one, the software somehow getting out so everyone can use it and it's not just something that they have to bring around on the laptop, and two, some tweaking of the rules maybe so that it can be run in a more fair manner.
Yep.
Flip Frenzy. Okay. Anything else, Marty?
Two more things. I managed to go to Free Gold Watch in San Francisco. That's where I am.
Did you find out why it's called Free Gold Watch?
No. Do you know why it's called that?
No.
No. Didn't bother asking. Sadly, I did turn up about 10 minutes after a comp had just started, so I missed out on that. But what an amazing location. I think there's probably about 50 pinball machines there, all in great condition. What was really interesting, because I sort of missed the start of the tournament, and they were pretty much playing on all the new games. I pretty much had, I don't know, maybe 30 games at my disposal, and I only played one game. And that was Black Knight 2000.
Okay. Isn't that a really long playing game?
Well, it is, and I put 50 cents in and just kept getting free game after free game after free game. So I was only there. I didn't have that much time, so I was only there for half an hour, played the one game maybe 4 or 5 times, and then left.
Okay.
But of all the games to play, like all these games, that was the game that I was drawn to. I just went, you know what? I loved this game, and I haven't seen it around for a while.
Why don't you just reach out? You know, I did it to Dennis Nordman. That was all me, Marty. Reach out to Steve Ritchie and just, I know a lot of people love Steve Ritchie, but just tell him how much you love him and get him to come on the show.
Yeah, it just, I mean, everything you just said, it just reminded me of why I really like Steve Ritchie games. There you go.
You've only got one of them, Marty. You've only got one.
I know, but what I'm really getting at is I'm hoping that he's doing a new Black Knight. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And last thing,
have you put your name down, Marty? Because we know these things can sell out. You're writing an email now. Like no. I wrote an email for the Beatles. I did. I wasn't joking about that.
Oh, jeez. No, so this is my last night in San Francisco. I'm heading back. And on my last night, what's the best thing you could possibly do your last night in San Francisco?
Go out and get wasted with G-Nex Wong.
That's exactly what I did. I went and had cocktails at a place called Trick Dog, I think it's called, with Gene X Wong. And it was a great night. It was him and his partner, and we just talked. Some of it was pinball, some of it wasn't pinball. Had some amazing cocktails, and managed to have a bit of a chat with him, a bit of a mini interview. Would you like to hear it?
Sure, Marty. I will edit it in.
Here it is. So one of the things that I've often talked about is coming to America and coming to Pinburg. We meet some really good people, and tonight is no exception. I'm here with friend of the show, we'll call it now, Gene X Wong. How are you?
I'm excellent. We just had a couple of drinks at Trick Dog, so I think we're having a good night, right?
Yeah, I think, they were pretty strong drinks as well. If I'm, they were great. Trick Dog, you've really got to go in the Mission District. So I really wanted to get you on really to talk about the scene in San Francisco, because I went to Free Gold Watch. It's amazing. But tell me about the scene and elaborate on the league, which floored me before.
Okay. Yeah, so at Free Gold Watch is the main kind of San Francisco City League. It's called the San Francisco Pinball Department that Per Schwarzenberger runs. He has been doing it, I think, since 2012 or 13, because that's when I got into pinball and the league was kind of new. It's capped at 80 people, plus or minus a few.
That's 80 people, Australians.
Yes, 80. And there's a wait list that's usually about 1 or 2 years long, because basically everybody loves playing pinball and nobody wants to to drop out. So mostly people drop out if they move or they just had a kid, so they got to take care of their child or something like that. But basically, it's very cool group of mixed people. It's not just for hardcore players. We have people like Andrei Masenkov, who's won the Pop World Championship, and we have a couple of or maybe like 3 or 4 top 100 players. But we also have people that are just totally casual, and everybody just like comes, and it's very chill, even though it's very intense. Like if you win it, as far as people that are really into whoppers, I think the league winner gets like 48 or 50 points for first place, so it's worth a lot.
And also this actually, they meet every fortnight or every other week is what you said.
Yeah. So we have 2 seasons a year, like a spring and a fall or spring and a winter, and they last about 10 weeks, and the top 8 rounds count. So you get to drop your 2 lowest scores, and then it's divided into divisions, usually like an A, B, and a C division, and it's really fun, really great. People are very friendly and helpful. People are always like willing to kind of tell people how to play the games. Everybody who's been to Pinburg knows sometimes people won't share information maybe right when you're playing because you don't want to give that advantage away. But at League, it's much more casual, and even though it's a very it can be very competitive, it's very friendly. People are like drinking and enjoying other things during the League nights and such. So.
And so what's the pinball scene in San Francisco like overall?
Overall, it's pretty good. We have a lot of different diversity. I'm going to talk more about Bay Area because there's a lot of stuff that goes on. Like Bells and Chimes started in Oakland. Eka started it there, and it's grown internationally now. And it's quite, that's a Monday night thing. So a lot of times people try not to do anything on Monday nights. On Tuesdays, there's a team league that Jared Garvey started up, and it's super fun because it's not for whoppers since it's a team league sort of situation. And that lets a lot of people play. The teams are tried to be balanced, so it limits the number of top 500, top 1,000 players. And then Wednesdays, usually this SFPD League. Thursdays, Roland and Jane have started a kind of like I think it's a first or second or third or fourth Thursday at a Buzzworks tournament that's kind of a 3 strikes, or now we do some progressive strikes. And then like you were at Free Goal Watch on Friday, and there was that casual tournament. Aaron Nelson often throws he's a beer rep, so sometimes there's a keg of beer, $10 buy-in. Everybody just plays for fun and cash, and but people don't care about the money so much. Some of them might, but mostly it's fun. And then there's a lot of weekend tournaments and selfie leagues. I run the San Francisco Selfie League. Jane runs the Oakland Pinball Warriors that Eka used to do. So there's those in Concord at the there's a Concord Selfie League. There's a lot of stuff in the Bay Area. So.
It sounds like there's actually an event on almost every night.
Almost. Not every week, but we're trying to. We're not like Seattle that has at least one, IFPA event every night.
But do you also then have lots of venues like with sighted machines as well?
Yeah, the location scene, like the reputation of the Bay Area is, I think, a little bit bigger than the actual number of machines on location. Although if you look at Pinball Map, it does show a large number, and that's also because we have like Pacific Pinball Museum that's got a ton of machines, and then we got Free Goal Watch. We have places like Alamo Draft House where there's like maybe 8 machines or 7 machines. But a lot of places have like maybe 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and like Outer Orbit's opening up. Tuesday we're doing a tournament there that's the first kind of soft opening for it. It's a pinball bar owned by a couple that is into pinball, and so we're really excited about that. So there's definitely a lot of little spots. TJ and Greg Creech are 2 of the local ops that do a really great job, and there's some other operators here. So it's been growing. I think our reputation's maybe a little bit bigger than the actual location. Like if you walk into a random bar, you might find pinball, and it might not work that well, but I think a lot of cities are like that, and everybody here kind of knows where to go.
Well, certainly not the city I come from. Like when I walked into Free Gold Watch, and I don't know how many machines there, 40 machines?
Yeah, I think there's 50 something.
50 machines there, like that's pretty unheard of in an Australian location, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess sometimes we're spoiled because we hear about the best, and we're like, we want to be like Seattle or Portland, so we're kind of jealous sometimes of that, but it's definitely great, and it's growing, and it's only getting better. So like the scene is fantastic. Actually, the new mayor, she was the one that allowed Free Goal Watch to get the permit and change the city's permitting for pinball so that it wasn't like the old school archaic whatever weird laws they used to have. So now places can have pinball machines a little easier, so we're always trying to push them for more. So
awesome. So tell me about your experience at Pinburg.
Oh, okay. My Pinburg was amazing fun and terrible play. I got my first 0 round, which was like, miserable, but I like to play well. I think like everybody, right? Like if you play in tournaments, you want to do well, but I know I just had to keep it fun. I was there this year. It was my, I think, 4th year or something, maybe 5th of Pinburg, and I definitely played my worst, but I had fun still. I mean, like a lot of that is like we had friends that did well. Like Andre, he got second the whole thing, and so for as far as local people, and so I had a great time. Was up in JJ's room playing some pinball late night and doing other things probably shouldn't have, but it didn't matter after that 0 round. I was just like, okay, I can pull it out still if I get some 10s and pluses, but then all I got was 6s or maybe an 8 and then a 3, and then it was just terrible play, but I had a good time. So I wish I would have played better, but I'm not really one to harp on the past and like especially that past. So I'm looking on to the next thing.
One of the things that we spoke earlier, I can't remember which cocktail we were on at the time, but it was one of them. We were talking about how amazing it was, and it was my first Pinburg, so for me, I kind of expected that it was always like this, but we were talking about watching the final and how much of an amazing experience that was. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, so over the last couple of years, they keep improving it. Like I think 2 years ago, the stage was on the ground level. There was no stage. It was basically like just a bank that was kind of set aside, and they had the broadcast booth just kind of next to them. And that was fun, because like in pinball, we all love it, and we'll take what we can get. So then last year they had it on stage, and it was pretty great. They had screens above the machine, so you could see that, but you couldn't hear the commentary real time, which is fine. Some people would listen to it on Twitch with a delay, which is kind of weird. And this year was fantastic. I know Mike, Primo from Path of Play got involved, and he really stepped up the production. It was fantastic. It was like, the two screens on either side of the stage, being able to hear the commentary and see it real time was amazing. Because my favorite part was when somebody did something amazing or had a terrible drain, how we were all there with them. We would cheer or be like, oh, because we all knew the feelings of what's going through, or like the crazy Harlem ball that Keith had. It was just like that was like the most kind of stadium feel of pinball as like a sport or whatever. Is that's the first time I've ever seen that and felt that, and it was amazing. Because I actually had to do an entry in Intergalactic, so I had to leave because I was like, I'm up. So I went up there, played my game, and I could hear cheers, and I was just like, oh man, that's so cool that like people are that excited about it and everything.
Yeah, so it was absolutely amazing. And also one of the things that you're also known for is orange photography. So you do photography of a number of things, including pinball, and we've seen that you managed to get some good snaps on the event as well.
Yeah, I've always just wanted to, like, the first time I started taking pictures at pinball was just to kind of give back to the scene, because I'm like, oh, this is something I like, what can I do to contribute? That's the kind of person I am as far as when I get involved in stuff. And so the first thing I did was, I think, a Metallica launch party, and I got too much close to the side, and Andre was like, told me to back off, and I was like, okay, then I learned something. I didn't even know who he was. I was just like, who's this guy? But I always knew not to use flash, and it's like a fun thing to photograph, because I it's like one of the ways I can contribute, so I like doing that. And the thing I try to find the most is, like, I love when people drain and they have a reaction, because we all know that, we can associate with that. And sometimes I feel guilty when people have are screaming at the machine or looking dejected, but I think it's a very universal feeling that we all know. We know what that feels like, because there's a very few times where you drain and you feel good, but there are those times too. But those are even harder to capture, because you don't know when people are going to drain or when they're going to blow it up. And when they're blowing it up, it's a little boring, because I just sit there waiting for them to drain or some sort of emotion. So it's just like something, and I'm actually kind of working on a book project with it, but I haven't really fully fleshed it out. So okay. I'm going to kind of noodling on that.
Yeah. Well, what I guess I know about that is, obviously the TTI, which I won, just in case I hadn't mentioned that already tonight. But Ryan will probably remind me as well. I won the TTI. But what was really interesting, like when you're in a tournament and you're in the moment, all you're thinking about is in the moment. And then what I remembered was that you actually posted up some pictures of the TTI at a later stage. And I kind of went, oh yeah, I was in that tournament. Rather than thinking about I was actually in it, it was a really good way to be able to think about it after the event. And I can imagine anybody that's had their photo snapped by you is feeling the same.
Yeah, that's something that if I'm able to do that for people, I'm really happy. I know sometimes people will come up to me like, oh, I wish you got a picture of me, and I'm like, I kind of want to make people understand. I'm like, I just take pictures of whatever, whenever I have the time to do it. It's not like my job. It is my job as far as like my real life. But when I'm at pinball, I'm going to be just, like, the reason I caught you guys at TTI was like we were playing dollar games next to you, and I'm like, look at this giant pile of money. I'm like, what is going on? I mean, we knew it was TTI, and it was funny. So that was like great moment with all that, and then you blowing up Hot Tip was like pretty amazing play there.
Thank you for mentioning that. Well, awesome. Thank you very much. Really good to catch up with you, Gene. Thank you very much for buying me a few cocktails tonight. That has also been pretty amazing.
I knew that it would get me on the podcast. Yes.
You did well. So thanks, mate.
Yep. Thanks.
So what did we learn about that, Marty? Because I haven't listened to it.
what we learned is Gene is a freaking awesome guy. And what we really learned is that it's really interesting that they sort of say, oh, you know, we sort of look to Portland and Seattle because they've got these massive pinball scenes up there with all these tournaments and competitions. And he rattled off everything they've got in San Francisco. And I'm like, oh my God, if we had a third of that, we would have 10 times what we've got at the moment. There's so much pinball over here. They've just got so much more access to pinball. There's a lot more.
What are you doing, Marty, to grow tournament pinball in Melbourne?
I'm doing this podcast.
What I'm saying is you should totally help me run all these tournaments.
I know, that's exactly what you're saying.
Let's run a Flip Frenzy at Pinball Paradise, and we'll be doing two things. One, we'll be running a tournament there, and two, we'll run it downstairs so that people have to walk up and down those fucking stairs non-stop for 3 hours, and everyone will just be super fit afterwards. Yep. 2 for 1. Done.
There you go. Done.
Let's head to the mailbag. Do you have anything else, mate? Yes? Mailbag. We got an email from Dave Peck, otherwise known as Rob Peck from Australia, and basically, after a lot of consultation, he says, with myself and the main tournament director, the what's it called? The Australia New Zealand
Southern Hemisphere.
Yes, Southern Hemisphere pinball competition has now changed, and it will be a full mini Pinburg format. So, people have been talking about it. Why is Pinburg the only one who does Pinburg? Guess what? It's being done. So apparently, there's already. It's already almost sold out. There's only 25 spots left. So I'm guessing, it'll be sold out soon. So I'm just skimming through the email. He's just saying it's really expensive to go to the US, and for Aussies to go to New Zealand, it only costs a couple $100, which is true. And you get the same experience. Yep, so that's almost sold out. So get your tickets soon. You can email Rhoda Dave at no, I don't know his email address. You can contact him on
in the show notes.
Yeah, sure. We got we got a super long email, Marty. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll read that next week. I'm not sure if it's even meant to be read out because it's pretty honest. Did you get to see that email from Mike? Thoughts from Middle America?
Yes. Maybe we'll seek permission and read it out at a later stage.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's almost one of those too honest emails that, yeah. Any other emails you can see, Marty?
No, that's it. I got to go to bed, man.
All right. Before you go to bed, I've got a last-minute message from one of our favourite followers. Let me just play it now.
Nice episode 54, losers. 70% skill, 20% luck, and 10% t-shirt. More like 100% bullshit. Hey, Ryan, explain again how the playoffs go from semis to quarters to finals. I guess you would know since you've never been in a competition. If you had half a brain, you'd still be half short. And Martin, big winner at TTI. Ooh, nothing like being the king of the dipshits. Admit it. You needed Carl D'Angelo to win it. The real winner was Mrs. Pin. She beat Becker, Bowden, and some fake Raymond Davidson. Yeah, he was fake. I hate when people pretend to be someone else. Nice try. We know who you fakes really are. And speaking of Bowden, did you see he challenged me to a pinball trivia on the new Super Duper Pooper Scooper podcast? You think he can beat me? Hey, Steve, you're about to get 5 days of a deep root of my foot up your ass. And here's the answer to the first trivia question. Fuck off!
There we go. Just a bit of Pinside PD to close us off. Haven't heard from him for a couple of weeks. Thank you, Pinside PD, you little fuck. All right. That's all.
That's it.
Yep. Next episode will be next week on Monday. Every Monday we give you an episode. 3 hours of fun. Fucking it's like 7 hours of editing. You can catch us on our website, head2headpinball.com. Email us at head2headpinball@gmail.com. You can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, not Spotify, Google Play, and or your favorite podcast catcher, subscriber thingy. Just do that. Just fucking subscribe so that you don't need to check every week. It just automatically downloads. And we will see you all next week.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.